All right. Welcome, guys. This is Leadership in Practice 278. So this is 5 years running weekly classes. Actually, at breakfast, someone asked us, how do you guys come up with your content? And I would say there's around 100 different things, and I do not exaggerate, colliding, not only from our own practice always. I think we always believe in this notion of dog fooding. I don't know if you ever heard that term, but a lot of tech companies use the term dog fooding a lot. The point is, if you ever start cooking something to start, when you start to learn how to be a cook or an early chef, what you make tastes like dog food. So before you serve it to your guests, make sure you eat it first. And then you can keep iterating. So dog fooding is a term a lot of startups and tech companies will use. And so dog fooding everything that we teach. There is nothing we teach that we have not dog fooded, had a stomach ache, threw up, right? Or said, wow, how the hell did that work so well? And as it does, it's what we share. We share quite rapidly in a course of even just like hours. If something works incredibly well, we've been trying to crack for a while, we'll share it pretty quickly. So we are in the process in even a given week, dozens, sometimes many, many dozens and dozens of people that we're coaching inside the company, outside the company. There's a lot of lessons over the years, 2 decades of pro bono work that led us to access the number ones in almost every field. And so they throw at us not only their top challenges, top insights, but especially the top things they need help on. And so that interaction live, along with our being in the arena, and then there's, of course, the constant stream that we all have access to, which is an endless amount of advice, right? Life advice, self-help advice, to a fault. And I find one of the big nuances is most of the advice in theory makes sense because theory is a lot easier to understand and grasp. But often in practice, it is almost completely wrong, meaning following the advice that's given in theory will hurt you, will actually make people around you run away, get distanced, and you will at some point stop because, like most things in life, if you don't get a return, you do stop. And when you start to see signals of things going wrong, you stop even faster. So translating theory to practice is not only an art, but also a science. And that is the class and what we're doing every single week. So all the content is literally brand new before. So that is kind of maybe.
And when we haven't taught in a few weeks, we have like a lot of extra stuff. Like some of the last few weeks between the test kitchen and a few other things that we just haven't taught in a few weeks. Yeah.
I think it's been 3 weeks.
So then last night, it's like, wait, what? Because there's stuff we learned. We had an offsite with our senior team last weekend. And so there's stuff from that. I mean, that is its own class and each component is its own class. I do think when you have intense situations, I was thinking you see more patterns of yourself. So I had a lot of that. So I'm like, I teach that. But oh my God, there's like so many different things. There's 3 weeks.
I think there's some really cool stuff that we found breakthroughs in that we have been struggling with ourselves, struggling to teach it, struggling to articulate it, but also from what we're reading kind of in the world and the world news of what's happening at work, what's happening with AI, what's happening in schools, what's happening in not only adults, but also children, the management team. Something really big. So we're going to share that in this class. We have a lot of slides, a lot of thoughts. It might be a little bit long. If you missed the rest of it, it's recorded and released by noon tomorrow. The one other announcement real quick is we have this massive battle that we're in. And so Mega and I have a long trip that we have to take to DC next Tuesday, April 21 until May 23rd, which means that we will be missing there's 5 different LIP possibilities before we come back, which should be at least by May 28th. So 4 of them should be our regular leadership in practice. One is Test Kitchen by Danny, which is May 7th. So May 7th, there'll be a LIP. The other 4, as of now, there will be no
leadership. Test Kitchen, leadership in practice.
Right. It's all about learning about food and performance.
And that. What we're saying is you won't see us until May 28th. So if you have questions, this would be the time.
This would be the time
to use your big girl, big boy voice or put it into the chat.
Okay. So this is the title. Put it up in the slide.
And if you're new, welcome to Leadership Practice number 278. If you're new.
If you're new, you're like, oh my God, this is so weird. They're playing, hip hop music, or, I play AC/DC to get pumped up. But yeah, leadership is synonymous with the word high agency. High agency is a term that's used everywhere at this point. And the notion, if you remember one of the earlier LIP classes, I talked about this example story of finger doctoring. And I mentioned that as just a visual reminder of what we are trained to do as individuals through every part of education, through every part of onboarding and org structures and work, which is to follow someone's instructions. That's not leading. Leading is when you are driving the strategy. You are making the instructions, you are coming up with the thesis, and everything starts with self. Like self taking responsibility when things go bad, self taking ownership, and actually even the I will figure this out notion. And that, define it different ways, that is what they call high agency. Leading is high agency. And why leadership and high agency are the exact same word, the opposite of high agency would be low agency. Followership tends to have lower agency. Leadership and the notion that every human being has now got to learn leadership. It is no longer a optional, nice to do, what you get promoted to. No, you have to start right from the beginning. And if you don't rep leadership, if you don't rep high agency, you will not make it. I hate to put it as bluntly as that. You will not make it in this world and the way it's changing. Now, I looked up an image and I put this in because I think this is literally the best definition of thinking of the two big pillars of leadership. You have to be in constant learning mode. The top antidote to uncertainty, the top antidote to changing environments is to be a number one learner. Like as in get so good at learning, and learning is an actual meta skill. So good at learning that when things don't work or things are uncertain, you're adjusting and you're learning. And then leading is saying not only strategize, but then execute. So think about it and then do it. Think about it, do it, and then you get feedback and whatnot, which is all part of leadership too. But this notion of leadership does not mean you go and sit there and spew out some vision statements and some isms and some values and principles and think, wow, I just gave a great speech, I'm a leader. No, leadership is actually contact sport. You have to play in the arena. You got to get in and get dirty. And once again, in practice, it's vastly different than in theory. And so a lot of people get too caught up in spewing theories that they've read online. And theories online sound better when they're shorter and easier to comprehend. In practice, in practice, not the case, right? So let me just jump into this. So I'll read through it. Sometimes hard to understand tweets, or, like they just have different orders. But someone was commenting that I liked as our late 20th century and early 21st century things. Change is constant. Silicon Valley will eventually disappear mostly. Thus, the hottest job market today is no longer tech, but health. Healthcare is the one industry where jobs have been growing. So everyone's like, oh my God, that's the future. I'll go after healthcare. So I wrote to this person saying, my belief is that the hottest jobs being healthcare is because the human reskilling and upskilling hasn't happened yet. For high agency, everyone needs leadership skills and know how to use the top leverageable tool. AI, robotics, the latest tech. You have to be able to it's like, don't have cars get invented saying, you know what, I still like to ride my horse, or like planes are invented. You're like, I still like to just take a bicycle and walk, to take a trip to Boston from New York. As opposed to no, get on a plane or get on a train or jump in a car. Latest technology being used, but with high agency. There may be a new industry, question mark, or existing industries that commanded the highest paid talent. As of now, tech and finance are where the top talent went and where the income was the highest. They may upgrade first, but who knows, right? So I wrote on the top of all this saying, high agency is synonymous with leadership. What used to be extra, as in being a leader is just extra, is now quickly becoming table stakes. It's the ante, the basic expectation to play in the game of life, work, and more. So Simple thought, right? Sharing this. So I'm just going to share it like an in-practice discussion. So let me just read to you kind of what's on this page. It's a lot on here. So first, Greg was commenting in his On My Mind. For me, it's been helpful both observing you and my own reps. And I put 1 and 2, and this matters a lot. A lot of people kind of observe and observe and observe until you get into the arena and play contact sports. The observations and the nuances you pick up will not be accurate. You're going to look for pithiness. But if you're in the arena yourself, your own reps, you're going to observe differently. You're going to observe the nuances, the sequence, the timing, the little things that actually matter a lot. So what Greg was writing, observing in his own reps of sense making with the tension of time ticking on action. As in, you don't have all the time in the world to just think, strategize. You have to go and do something. To get to the point of running the best play you can think of. That's the hard part.
Yeah.
If you're a perfectionist, I'm like, oh God, are you screwed in this century, the next 100 years? You need to learn to understand how wanting Eden, wanting perfect is different than not pulling the trigger until you have a perfect plan. You're going to run the best play you can think of. And if you don't know, like, oh my God, it might not work, you're going to learn how to build around so you can gated process and not risk everything at once, right? And at the same time, recognize there are always better plays out there to run. If anything, I've had to learn to appreciate the investment in the pre-work, including VD stands for visceral drafting. Even if quick, helps the initial having my own point of view. And the payment one is a good example because so many moving parts, the economics, tools, fraud, trade-offs, and other projects and people involved. We're in the process of Stripe is a payment processor. There's many payment processors in the world. We're in the process of consolidating, negotiating. And it's like, I think our volume is maybe 250 million just through payment processors. So it's like, it's a big number and it's a complex negotiation, a lot of moving pieces. And as you're actually in the process, even negotiating, trying to make changes, new information always comes back. And this is where then data points are coming back as we learn more or as we execute more. This notion of it's a moving sport. Like when they do like a scan of your brain, MRI, you get to lay still. And so we met a team that wanted to build an MRI machine that you can put while you move around. Like that's more accurate. That's more accurate a read as opposed to when you're laying still, you're either asleep or you're dead. Right. And they're like, I want the brain when it's actually active and what I need to do. Mm-hmm. So this actually was from Tom here, talking to MM, which is Megan. Tonight, what Tom describes here is an earned skill that only comes at real reps. So this is him observing Greg now. So Greg was observing you. I think it was me and Megan, and then now his own reps. This is Tom observing Greg. It's been good learning for me watching Greg synthesize the situation. That is saying rapidly sense make any situation. He has a point of view to be sure, right? So even if he doesn't know, he has a point of view, right? Not only how he makes sense of it, but what's the best play he would run right now. But he is genuinely open that it might be wrong. People struggle with this, which is, wait, you have a point of view, but you also think you might be wrong. And the hardest part of navigating uncertainty is the fact that you can hold two completely opposing thoughts at the same time and execute with opposing views, opposing thoughts at the same time. And most people cannot. When you don't have the reps, don't have the skill, and we've seen this firsthand, opposing thoughts, opposing strategies make you grind to a halt. You freeze. Your brain literally freezes. You cannot speak. You cannot even remember. It literally is almost like hardware that crashes. So without the reps, your hardware crashes. And the only other part I wrote here, VD, visceral drafting, which is part sense making, part strategizing, shows how many moving pieces there are, but also holes in your understanding. When you try to make strategy, you're going to have a list of all the things I wish I could ask someone questions on, go get more information on, all those things. But you got to still make a plan and you're going to fire. And then in the process of having your strategy and executing thesis or idea, sometimes you're going to be smart about it and think, if I fire the shot, I can learn more. It's called probing. When they fire actual rifles, they call them firing a tracer bullet. Sometimes, I mean, if you've ever seen this in some of the sniper movies and whatnot, like before they want to go and kill whatever it is, good guy, bad guy, whatever it is, right? They will know where they want to hit and they will fire a shot to see where it goes. That's called a tracer bullet. More than doing all the calculations on wind and trajectory and whatnot, sometimes the single best way to get a sense of how much do I have to adjust for wind is fire a shot and see where it lands and then adjust from it. So there's always a phrase, I would say, launch quickly, as in fire shots quickly, then iterate like hell. Most people do a aim, aim, aim. Hands are getting sweaty. I got to take a break. Calculate and then aim and then talk to people. What do you think? I'm thinking of aiming. I'm thinking of doing this. Any feedback from me? And then go back to, oof, oh, my arms are cramping up now. I got to take another break. Aim, aim, never fire shots. And when they fire the shot finally, and it's, of course, it's totally off, taking all their time, maybe they're hunting, whatever they're hunting is already taken off. They go into, I suck at this. The sport's not for me. And then before you know it, it's like, or the whole, do you have any feedback for me? And how about the stop hesitating so much and just fire shots? So what were you going to say?
No, sorry. I'm still thinking like a few slides back, actually. This is all really good. I was just thinking about, sorry.
So I can go back.
Okay, go to the first slide for a second. No, go to the first slide for a second because it's interesting. Just the title slide. I was just thinking like this learning and leading, like maybe for you guys, it doesn't feel this way, but when you're a leader, or as a parent, as a leader, that feeling that you're supposed to already know what you're doing and this notion of learning as you lead, I think just, I'm not trying to be dramatic about it, but it is so much harder in practice than it is to talk about it. Talking about learning and leading is very different than learning in public, right? Like this is public, right? Like I'm learning a lot of this stuff, and to be able to like get into it and get into the nuances and even bring up examples, right? That might make you look silly or stupid or whatever you feel. Because we were just looking, there's another woman I follow, and she was she was talking about ego, and Kathy's got like a new baseball cap that says ego on it. And we were talking about how much ego. There's no ego. No, it has ego, but it crossed out.
Which is no.
Yeah. Sorry. I missed it. Sorry. It has a red thing going through it. I'm just like, okay. Yes. So Kathy's not walking around with an ego hat. That'd be a little like, whoa. Yeah. But, so then I was thinking about, and this is combining a lot of different thoughts from the last 3 weeks. Sorry. So I'm just kind of trying to synthesize what was in my head, is that, like just how challenging the ego is. And I was working on a few weeks back, all these micro behaviors and habits we have that are like protecting our ego, and they're just doing all the wrong things, but it's so subtle. So I've noticed Troy was like, oh, you just did it again. I'm like, I did? Like, and I have to look back. I'm like, oh yeah. Like, or just, one of my bad habits is to shit on something. Something good happens. I'll find instead of finding the silver lining, I can find the shit lining so fast, but it's just a really bad habit. It's like I'm not even quite aware of it. But anyways, I'm going back to the ego piece. I was thinking, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about control, like what we want to control. Like I think a lot of us want to feel control. Control feels good. The one thing we can control is ourselves more than anything, more than anything. And I feel like I'm learning it the hard way that like, you can think like you are who you are and this is what you are and you're holding on to it, but you can change anything that you want to change. I'm going to make Laura cry. Sorry. I don't know. But it's true. Like you can change whatever you want to change. In practice though, it's really hard. In fact, Charlie sent me a tweet last night. I'm totally going off the script. Sorry. All these different thoughts in my head.
There's no script.
No script. Well, you have a PowerPoint. Yeah. There's like 100 slides.
But I mean, there's no script.
There's slides. Sorry.
There's slides.
I'm not following slides. But there was interesting. There was a whole thing about, I'm going to botch this up, but like when people cry, if you think about it, it's what kids do. It's not about that's actually what happens when you're a kid. You cry a lot. But the crying, I think, is a way to like bring yourself back to your child version of you. But it's because you're trying to change who you are. Like the crying and the release allows you to then emerge as a different person. So it's fascinating because I feel like I'm a crier, but it's weird. It's like I'm not crying at the times where I'm still trying to hold on to the other version of myself. I feel like this version that you feel like got you here, got you where you are. But like the world is trying to get me somewhere else. And it's like, it just feels very hard to like in practice, it feels very hard to let go of that person because that person got me here. I'm sure you guys probably feel that version but the world is changing so much. So Yeah, but like to have to do it in public, I was thinking this learning and leading thing.
Can I read part of? So the thing I sent Megan was, children cry quite often, and they cry when they encounter an impediment they can't surmount. So it's a notion of like, but he said,
you don't have the skill.
I think what tears do is dissolve you to the state of neurological plasticity that characterizes early childhood so that you can learn. In other words, when you cry, your brain is literally returning to a state where it's capable of being rewired. The same openness to learning that children have naturally, adults can only access through emotional breakdown.
How interesting.
And how about laughing for that matter?
I'm sure laughing.
We're talking about crying. I think that but I'm saying but keep it on point in the sense of like you're crying because you're encountering an impediment. I'm saying I don't think people encounter an impediment and start laughing.
Yeah,
that's a different. That's a whole different feels.
Yeah,
you're encountering an impediment, right? It's not success, an impediment
that you can't,
right? And you can't surmount it. You have decided that I don't know how to navigate this. And so children cry, and adults, of course, what do? We hold it in.
Yeah.
We fake it. We pretend that we know, or we go quiet. I mean, all kinds of things, right?
Yeah. But then it's like from there, right? Because like from there, you have to be willing and open to then, in theory, you could be like, okay, I'm crying. So now I want to change. I want to upgrade this piece of me. So, but in the practice, you have to then start being very aware of your own behaviors and little habits, micro things that you're doing.
So I sent this to Megan. She wrote, "That's so profound. I definitely find myself trying not to cry.
Yeah.
I don't want to ruin the energy or look weak like a baby.
Yeah.
And that's probably because I'm trying to control it versus when it's real, it just is. It's honest. Yeah. Let go of the old self stuff versus holding on and trying to logic shit out." Feeling so tongue-tied, sorry, can't make sense.
I feel very tongue-tied, yeah. I think it's 3 weeks of stuff, plus what we have coming up has got me like feeling kind of my head spinning. But
so can I comment something you said? As a leader, as a parent, you're supposed to already know. Mm-hmm. So here's the interesting nuance I wrote as soon as you said that. Okay. You do know. You actually know way more than you may realize. And that's called judgment. You do know. Now, here's the other counterpoint, totally opposite, but you don't know. It's like, what? Yeah. No, you know. In any situation, you know what to do. And you have to learn, and that's high agency.
Wait, what do you mean? Slow down. What? You do know, but you don't know.
You do know. You do know.
In any
situation, you know. No, I didn't say that right. Oh, you do know. Okay. You have a point of view. You have a point of view of what to do.
You know something.
You know. Right. You're not as blank-minded, meaning you're no longer 5 years old. Yeah, you're no longer 6 years old or 3 years old, whatever. You know. And this is the part, we don't apply what we know. Right. You know. Yeah. And even if it's enough, you know something, And you have to realize that is high agency. Mm-hmm. The minute you go into, well, I don't know, someone else should, I don't know, that's low agency. Yeah. We're growing one muscle. Every interaction we have and every conversation, every thought, we're growing the high agency muscle or we're growing the low agency muscle. Right. And so sequence matters, right? Mm-hmm. Sequence matters in everything. And if you start most situations, right, majority of the time in uncertainty, I don't know, it's not me, you will see that you grow the muscle so much that you don't even learn to use the muscle of, okay, I know. I have a point of view. As Tom recognizing Greg, he has a point of view to be sure. Yeah. Greg has never dealt with payment processors and gone to the level of detail, but he went and investment in pre-work, which is called the visceral draft. He rapidly went. When Greg works with his team and does a visceral draft, you know what he'll say? Okay, we're all going to tackle this. 5 minutes, everyone go. He gives everyone 5 minutes. Everyone's like, how can you possibly do research and make a strategy in 5 minutes? Oh, you can. And to learn to use that muscle, and the more you do, you realize 5 minutes was way too much time. I could have done it in a minute. And sometimes not even a minute, 15 to 30 seconds would have been enough. boom. And even the advantage you get
Yeah.
just by drafting 15 to 30 seconds before you go. And for those of you who love movies, remember the Prince of Persia?
No.
This movie with Jake Gyllenhaal. And they know some of you watch it, but it's what?
It's based on a game.
It's okay.
Yeah.
But so there's this magic sword, I think. And if you press the button on the sword, it goes back 8 seconds.
Hmm.
And I remember we worked with all these military leaders. I think it was in the Air Force Academy. They were saying when you look at decision making and they studied it, what they found was literally the regret that someone had after they hit send an email was 8 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
If you could just give someone 8-second head start, they would make better decisions. Chess players are trained to write down the move they're going to do before they actually make the move, right? And the reason they're trained that, we work with some of the best chess players in the world, is not because you're like, oh, I need to keep track of what I'm doing. No, it's to buy 8 seconds. It literally, that's visceral drafting, what they're going to do. And literally 8 seconds just so that they make a better move. The difference on visceral drafting 8 seconds is the difference between winning and losing. Like it's that crazy. So
when you commit, isn't it similar to like buyer's remorse? But basically you make a decision or you purchase something and you think, oh, I really didn't need that. Why did I get that?
I think a buyer's remorse usually left to label people who spend way too much time ruminating past and spend more energy looking backwards. Now, if you have buyer's remorse, right, and there's different ways. Maybe I didn't buy. You can have that FOMO notion, or you can have the, I bought it and I wish I didn't buy it, right? So many things are returnable, right? And I've seen people freak out. I'm like, you haven't even opened the tabs. Just go freaking return it. And they're like, oh, I shouldn't know, but I want it. I'm like, do you want it or not? Right. And even then they have remorse of kind of the decision and whatnot. And so this notion of there's a place for that. Overdone. It's awful. Right. It's like life's moving forward and they're still looking backwards and wondering if they did the right thing, wrong thing, did the right thing, wrong thing. Then they go ask people, should I have not bought it? Should I have bought it? Right. I'm like, okay, how about if you really don't know, go return it. And then you come back later once you've decided and they're like, but it might be gone. Well, maybe as you go into nuances, you can ask them to hold it and they'll say, we can hold it only for 12 hours or, there's so many other options if you do it in practice.
It's an indecision, I guess, where somebody's not really meant to go out the path and just keep going with it. What?
And then there's a flip side, which is that's why I just decide and go. I'm like, oh God, you're a scary person, right? There's a lot of people. It's like, God, reckless decision-making like scares people, right? And scares people because you can break things everywhere and be the one that acts like, well, that's how I live my life. And everyone's like, you break everything along the path and don't learn lessons. So there's all these nuances, which is why the top thing I said in the learn first and then lead. There's an element of kind of both that matter, right? Like I look at it as like when you go to kids at 5 years old or whatever, 3 years old, when they first go to school, I don't think the very first thing we're gonna do is I want everyone to lead, right? There's a part of like, okay, first safety, right? Okay, if you're going to go and do what you want to do, first thing we don't do is we don't hit each other. We don't, there's like these ground rules. You're learning before they start leading, right? They come in the kitchen and Danny's like, yeah, cook whatever you want, right? Go ahead, use the burners, use the knives. Like, no, ground rules. Even if it's 5 seconds, 10 seconds, you almost always learn and then you lead, but they tend to go right in sequence.
Sorry, just back to this quote real quick.
Right.
I did the tear thing. Can I just read this part and then we can move on? It says, this is the core insight. Your tears are a sign that your old way of understanding the world has reached its limit. The framework you've been operating with can no longer hold the reality in front of you, and it needs to collapse before a new one can take its place. Deep.
Yes.
Deep.
So, and by the way, exactly the script, Clinton.
Not going on the script.
Say exactly the script. All right. So going on from this, remember the last Lip Class 276, March 26th? I said what we're not teaching in this class. High agency skill in the AI era. I flashed this slide. This was an old tweet. I tweeted, visceral drafting is a leadership exercise to rep ownership skills, dreaming and imagining the success you want. This isn't about being unrealistic. It's about training your brain to see possibilities as in potential before constraints.
My God, is that hard in practice? Sorry.
Very.
For me, I start with constraints and then I can the potential, but there's areas where I can totally do it. We talked about it last night. I can share more maybe later.
So there is a part also you will see the whole this formula we got from the military years ago. I love it, where performance equals potential minus impediments. Think of potential as playing offense in a game. If you want to win the game, just performance, you got to score points, right? But then you have to play defense. In the same way, if you want to move a car, you have to step on the gas, which is potential. But at some point, you got to press the brakes too. If you press both at the same time, it's what they call burnout. You're going to get no movement, no force. And so we're going to go into this in a lot more detail. So this is the older version. So you're going to have better pictures taken. But potential. One of the nuances, and I'm not a rub your crystals and have a cold plunge open for feng shui kind of person, just so you know. That's not me.
I'll look at Florence, just triggered. I am.
Sorry.
No crystals, but cold plunge open.
But I say this, human energy is an absolute skill. It's an absolute both art and science that is one of the hardest things to understand nor master. The energy that you feel from humans when they're starting a thought process, first thing in the morning on potential, is vastly different energy than the energy of actually impediments. What's going to go wrong, risk factors and whatnot. Any investor who ever invests money, the first thing they almost always do is first, like, hey, the quick scan of, is this worth listening to? If it is, then they go into, am I going to lose money? How much could I lose? I look at my downside first, which is impediments. And then they go, once they're comfortable with their impediments, they pour their energy into the upside of how much could this thing be worth? So that notion of the energy is different. And you have to think about almost like if we had a dance party and the dance party is all 90s hip hop, right? And someone's like, you know what? I don't like that. I like reggae. It literally is so different that if you kind of went song by song and alternated hip hop to reggae, actually, maybe that's a bad combo, or maybe that one works. But yeah, say classical. So classical or jazz to hip hop, it would just break the mood, the party.
Yeah.
You're like getting all like grimy and whatnot, hip hop. And then they're like, I'm going to play classical. And it's like, so I'm just going to dip my tea, my finger out, like, I mean, and then they're like,
it goes off by a little bit. We look at them like, what are you doing? I mean, even if it's like a slight, we're like, well, I don't know about that. Like the energy totally shifts.
But the energy matters, and you can actually start to be more aware of your own energy. You can also be aware of others' energy. And that is something that is not like, this energy isn't controlled by God.
Yeah.
Even though that plays a role here, I will show you later, but it is controlled mostly by you. It is the narratives we tell ourselves. And by the way, this is not about food. It's not about exercise, sleep, nutrition, sunlight. It literally is stories we tell ourselves. Our mind in a snap of a finger can change the energy. You can pour energy into potential, and that kind of energy can pour into impediments. We'll talk more about this a little bit. So this is what we weren't going to teach, but we're going to cover it since we cover this in a lot of detail. So I'm going to give you a quick teaser and then go into a lot more depth. So mission first matters a lot. And why this matters is this. When it comes to human beings, human performance, based on the mission, you need to step up to the mission. So the classic example is, hey, family, or hey, team, we're going to go on vacation, right? Okay. We woke up late, right? Maybe just barely made it to breakfast, right? And I'm going from laying in my bed to having breakfast to laying on the pool chair. So, okay, you're going from laying down to laying down now with sun and maybe a pina colada, right? That's the mission. How much do you have to go and say, okay, I gotta muster up my energy, right? I want to perform in this vacation day, right? Impediment energy, no, right? I need to think about the potential. What is the order of drinks and food so I can make sure I get maybe 4 meals today as opposed to the usual, 3, but then since I woke up late, it might be 2. Oh my God, that's like freaking me out. Like I need a song to put me in a mood. My point being, the mission drives the version of you that needs to show up. So if you don't understand, first and foremost, every single day, what that mission is, you'll see that this whole thing won't work. Like, this is not just about, oh, how do I feel today? So how about life and whatnot? And just kind of empty, like what was the endless spiral of help seeking or self-help?
Yeah.
Like, just, that's not what this is. That is in theory. Go help yourself and go read all the self-help books and go read it in the pool, go read it under stress in a dark room with a light. I don't care. When it comes to in practice, this is what we want to talk about. How do we help people perform better in the things that matter in life, whatever you're choosing to do? Okay. So this is an nice old, lip 274, not that old. A nuance that was very important: internal, external, people, mission, and the notion that if you go this way, right, this is a ramp to low agency. If you go people first, if you're in the how do I feel today? First thing I wake up, you start self-scanning and asking yourself how you feel, right? You don't even know what the mission is, right? How do I feel? I'm again in a good mood. I'm in a bad mood. Or you know what? I'm in such a good mood. Like, and then as soon as you look at the hard mission, you're like, I'm in a bad mood, right? Like,
Yeah.
if you go people first, you end up feeding ego. It grows faster. It's almost like a perfect setting. Like if you think about farming and a plot, it's a perfect plot to just grow ego like cancer. And then when you go mission not first, you grow fear. Everything looks difficult. You want to avoid it. It's the single one of the nuances of ramping low agency. And a lot of us do this, right? Self-scan, how do I feel, whatnot, and ramping low agency. On the flip side, this is how you ramp high agency. High agency means mission first. And we've taught this in some of our leadership academies. You always go first to the mission that moves the needle, the mission that is hardest, the mission that matters. Not like, you know what? A lot of people do I need to start really slow. So I need to start with a really easy mission, then ramp up to a medium mission, and then I'll ramp up to a hard mission. And then you start the easy and you say, you know what? I can't even do that. I am useless. I'm going to go and analyze now where I am in my life. And before you know it, you're spiraling in some ego building garden of people first. Mission first. Hard doesn't work. You oscillate to easy, then you come back to hard. We've taught this in the Leadership Academy in person. This is a ramp to high agency. And based on that, the impact of going after hard mission, you will see what you need to work on. And if you do it in this order, fear goes down over time and your ego will go down over time. So very big difference in outcome based on which order you choose on a daily basis. So we built a pretty powerful worksheet, which I think we're going to start building training and all kinds of other things on it. I was telling our team sort of when we're in an offsite, I can see AI coach and algorithm building where it will help analyze and score for you all aspects and recommendations of how to navigate this worksheet. So I'm going to give you sort of the clean version view. You can't see the lines here because of the color, but it's a mission first worksheet. And mission involves projects, and projects, by the way, first. Most people in this country read left to right. So projects kind of first, then people are also mission. Whether if you're a parent, if you are, colleagues and whatnot. And like video gaming, right? There's insane level, hard level, normal level, and easy level. And understanding where something falls. And by the way, accuracy of where you categorize it matters. Mm-hmm. And most people think they're accurate, but they're inaccurate. And so how do you find that out? Well, you pull the trigger and execute over time, you find out. You're like, whoa, I thought that was really easy, but oh my God, it turned out to be hard. You learn that way through experience. Or you think, oh, this is really hard and it became a little too easy, should drop it down. Or feedback. Feedback, especially from people in the arena with outside strangers, sometimes helpful, but we get too much feedback from complete strangers. We need people who are in the arena and in practice can see the nuances of what you're doing. And I was telling the team as we built this done right should look like a sheet that's scribbled on. Things are moving. It's a live, living sheet. It's not like I made it once and I just go by it. I'm like, that's not how life works. And your crystal ball and your guesswork of where things are never that accurate. So it should be massive scribbles of stuff moving up. But so we'll teach more about this, but I'm going to give you a little teaser and we'll come back. Okay. So I'm going to turn it over to
that was a teaser. Yeah. Okay. So this topic I wanted to share. I tried to make this cleaner, you guys. Sorry. I tried to make it, and then I started making it cleaner on paper, and then I read it, and then I tried ChatGPT, which, it just wasn't doing what I wanted, and I was getting very frustrated. So it's like not worth it. This is like the original. I'll get better at that. But this was the original sheet we drew, and I can't remember if it was from the weekend offsite. It was like a little bit before, but it came together. If you try to stay with me for a second, I think this is the high level theme or maybe the lesson I want to teach, which is you have to fight to bring and keep your best energy in the present. I know that the idea of you got to live in the present. I think a lot of us will live in the future and the past. And so I put future, what we want is control. In the past, there's a lot of regret. I don't know if you guys feel this way, but it's like, this is just generally speaking where I think as in humanity, we sort of get lost in wanting to control the future, a lot of regrets in the past. But ideally, you're spending the majority of your time in the present, right? Like full energy, like Charlie was talking about your energy, and I wrote detail here, but this is interesting. If you just, maybe I'm just going to jump around a little bit, but on the past, it's fascinating. It's something that I do, that I'm noticing more and more is that, the past, and maybe Amanda being a therapist here can talk about this too, but like when you talk about your past and it's really heavy, like, and even into the future, things that are heavy, like when it's too heavy, you kind of know something's not right about that. You haven't processed it. So ideally you get light in the past. And the reason why it's light, and actually I had another note on this, but like the reason why you want light is when you're heavy on things in your past, and as you get older, it's stacking, it actually slows down your thinking. Your heaviness in your past slows down your ability to move forward. And so like, that maybe sounds a little bit like conceptual, but I think that is why, and I've noticed Charlie do this, he's lighter. Like, the idea of like to see somebody who's like light in spirit despite really difficult things. It's because they're cleaning out that heaviness all the time, like every day over 50 something, 50 years plus or whatever it is. Like you're cleaning it up, maybe as an adult not, but 3 decades of just cleaning out daily and recognizing it's because it makes your brain move slower. I have a lot of heavy stuff and and it's interesting. You'll find it as you share stories about something in the past. You'll be talking and it gets really heavy. It's like, whoa, why did that get really heavy? And to find a way to make it lighter because it is fuzzier. You don't actually remember the past accurately. The more you talk about it, the more you change your past. That's there's a lot of research on that and documentation on we change the story. Every time we tell it, we're changing the story because it goes back into your past. It grabs the new memory you just attached to it right now. As I share a story now, I'll remember that little bit. Oh, Laura likes that. And then you start sharing that. And it's crazy how quickly stories morph. So you can get heavier, you can get lighter on it. Same thing in the future. So this idea that the outcome, if you think about future control, what we want to control. I might want to control a meeting, like how it's going to run, what we're going to talk about. I might want to control the dinner we have, what themes we're going to talk about, life, my kids, I want to control what they're going to do, who they become, whatever. Obviously, we cannot control those things, but if you leave that outcome fuzzy, saying, and whatever that is, right? The fuzzy, and I'm going to break that down, what that fuzzy outcome is, upside and downside. It can feel lighter versus so heavy. Like I have to have that. If they don't become sports athletes, that, whatever it might be, or if we don't talk about this in this meeting. So this notion of just getting lighter. So, okay. This is the top part. But so in terms of the control, and I'm learning this from Charlie, so maybe you'll help me on this a little bit. But when you think about the control on the outcome, obviously what we have coming up, say in our legal case that we have, it's maybe an illustration of what's happening, is that you have to recognize there's a downside and an upside. If you spend too much time on the downside, and I wrote here like fuzzy, that it should be enough to just say, we're going to be okay. Going to be okay. And this is where the religion component will come into it. I'm not very religious, but like this idea of surrendering, that there's some tweets we're going to share with you after on this topic, but this idea of giving up control on the downside, because adding more detail to the downside doesn't help you do anything now to help change the outcome. All it is doing is just robbing energy, time, thinking. It's a bad habit. I add a lot of detail on the downside and it's doing nothing. It's like almost like I'm going to live trauma that I haven't even had yet. Now it's not helping me in the future. I'll relive it. I'll live it, but it's right now it's not helping. So this idea of just should be like, I'm going to be okay. Giving up control on that so that I wrote the arrow to the left side so that you can actually put energy into the upside. And this idea of the details, like adding details, thinking, visceral drafting, like, and that's the energy in the present. So the arrows are a little bit harder to understand, but like this idea of like just getting out of the downside, surrendering, there's only so much you can do there. I'm going to be okay. And then pour into the visceral drafting, into the details, your energy, this whole notion of your energy in the fight, right? On the upside. And so that's the only way you can change outcome. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Is this kind of like,
So can I add a couple components?
Yeah, go ahead.
So several pieces. Starting at the top about the light versus heavy,
Mhm.
right? And this notion of, once again, a lifelong sport is the sport of just building greater and greater self-awareness. And if you think you're self-aware, I'm like, you're already full of blind spots. Meaning it's so like anybody who I meet who brags about how self-aware they are, I'm like, oh God. Right.
Yeah.
And you'll see people around them do the, oh my God, I can only say shit behind their back because they give you no opening, that they have so many blind spots and all this stuff. So, but one of the best ways to understand the light versus heavy, and think of this as even energy. When someone tells a story in the past and the vibe and energy is as if they're living it right now, it's happening, right? You have to realize that highlighted heavy energy story is an actual predictor of their decision making into the future. So the heaviness of that story, right, impacts directly their decision algorithm into the future.
Even
Their
if it's
prediction.
something totally different. Like say I had a heavy story on a friend I haven't seen in 30 something years.
It's
You're saying 'cause you
impacting.
knew, like
It's impacting something.
Yeah.
It's like heaviness in the past has the greatest impact on your decision making prediction in the future. In the same way, when you see someone in the future explaining something that could happen, a prediction, and a lot of detail and heaviness, it's coming from something in the past. And
right. Yeah.
there's a notion of that is a very powerful tool if you are aware of what you're doing. But if you're doing it unconsciously, unintentionally, it could be lethal. The same as lightness. If you have something in the past that you can explain it, even if it was traumatic at the time with lightness, you'll see that you might have good lessons from it. It doesn't control your decision making in the future. In the same way, when you have predictions in the future, right, and it feels fairly lighthearted, flexible, it means that there isn't baggage from the past that's filtered in there. So this connection of just looking at one side is very indicative of what's on the other side. So I know we're looking at this from like a negative standpoint. I think the word bad is there. But I'll give you an example, and this is where leadership and practice is so difficult. For everything you see, there's a total opposite side that can be true too. And then there's a gazillion variations in between. So Simon Sinek is a well-known TED Talk speaker. We housed him and his whole team in an office for 2 years in our old office. And the nuance of what a why statement is, for those of you who are familiar, he has a great TED Talk, know your why. Why do you do what you do, right? Why, when you get up on all why. A why, simply put, is your North Star. It's a statement, it's a visual, it's a narrative that acts like a North Star. So, the idea of a North Star, if you don't know where to go, you just kind of follow North Star. Yeah. It's a directional compass of giving you, that's where I want to go. You don't actually go to the star, the burning sun, right? Yeah. That's the direction you go. But how a why statement is figured out, he asked someone, anybody who has a strong why, like a strong direction, he asked them, like, kind of tell me about your past. And he picks up stories, typically before they were 18 is what he says. And the story that they share in illuminated detail is usually the story that indicates, that's where your why statement comes from. That's where your North Star comes from. This is an example now that you get to pick the stories you want from your past. And if you intentionally and deliberately pick that story from the past that drives the best why North Star in the future, that's great leadership skills. That's intentional, deliberate using of the human brain and how it works. But if we don't pick it and we're unaware, everyone else is walking on eggshells around you, unconscious and whatnot, and it kind of has a, why did I do that again? That's where the danger lies. So that's kind of one first thought. The second thought below, there's nuances we put here. Downside 5%, upside 95%. Now, this is hard for people to comprehend because there was a lot of people whose literally job, as in a C-level executive in a large company, was called risk management. I am the risk manager. My job is to find problems. Problem pointing outing is my job. Right? So you go to a meeting in a room and someone says, oh my God, I have some great ideas. If I can point out all the uncertainties, all the unknowns and all the risks, they're like, wow, we should promote you. Yeah. That job belonged in the last 100 years. Now it's full of uncertainty. So if you say, oh my God, we could have something uncertain show up, I'm be like, no shit, Captain Obvious. Right? You want to keep saying that? I have a sign that just says all the time, something unknown is going to happen. And I don't believe I deserve a promotion for that. That is the new norm. And so Meaning uncertainty is the most terrifying thing for the human mind. There's a lot of research on this. Not knowing, the uncertainty is the most terrifying, fearful thing, because then our mind goes fucking crazy. And because the mind goes crazy, like, I think the scariest movie I've ever seen in my life, if you ever like horror movies, I'm not a big fan, but Blair Witch Project. It's like some low budget movie, right? And it's like they do all these weird things, but they never show you who the demon is. So we all walked out with the scariest view of the demon ever imaginable in our heads. Now, if you watch the modern day version of that kind of movie, it was Stranger Things, right? Except it's a whole series. It was really scary until they showed you the demon.
Yeah.
Once they showed you the demon, you're just like, oh God, this is like your imagination is far more lethal than what anyone could possibly create, which is why in an uncertain world, the downside, and this is saying it's like, 5%, what Megan wrote here, the upside, 95%, meaning knowing how to brainstorm the downside is a very dangerous sport. Only recommended for skilled people. But everyone likes to do it because your brain does it automatically. That'll be like saying Chef Danny's going to teach a whole bunch of, let's invite some middle schoolers, like maybe like some 12-year-olds. We're going to teach how to cook with live fire and sushi grade sharp knives. Let's go, right? Puzzling on this side is very dangerous. So you need the skills to puzzle correctly. And the one litmus test or tip I would give is, because it's so dangerous, do it freaking fast. And if you don't come up with something useful that you can actually action and do something with, probably the more time you spend, it's going to turn into a fucking nightmare. You're building a Blair Witch project of your own, right? So just be careful. The upside, I like what Megan put here, you have to fight for this. You have to fight to come up with strategy so you can iterate and iterate in the details so that you can win. Now, there's a nuance she wrote there, fuzzy outcome versus details in the process, as opposed to what you will win, what the results and outcome will be.
Yeah.
You will never know. It will take care of itself. If you apply the right strategy, the right process on a compounding basis consistently, you're going to get the best outcome. And so how can I live with that? Right? Don't I need a number, a goal that I can backwards work to? I'm like, can you get out of the industrial age? That's how I worked in the industrial age. Yes. Almost everything had a lot more certainty. Everything moved slower. In fact, analysis can be given away to McKinsey for 18 months. In 18 months, they'll come back and tell us how we're doing, right? That's literally what it was. You go and get a health checkup now, before. It's like, they'll tell you in a month after all the lab comes back. Now you can find out some places like real time. They give you a real-time blood test read. They give you a real-time, we have information much faster. So instead of taking all the time projecting the outcome, how do we spend the majority of the time? So it's not zero on the outcome projection, but majority on coming up with a strategy. How do you win? What does winning look like? So we're going to dive more into this. And I feel there's a tiny nuance that I've never seen it said before this way. And sometimes things happen just totally by accident. I was watching this video that was on America's Got Talent, combined with an insight that came from Huberman, one of the top neuroscientists. So he's like pure hardcore science, and religion came into that mix. I've never heard a scientist talk as in depth about religion being a key component of managing human performance. And by the way, my mom's a pastor of a church, and I was forced to go to church as a child. So as a child, I was forced religion, right? It's like, I was voluntold to go, right, to church and all that stuff. I try to pretend to sleep, be sick. But somehow they figure it out every time and still drag to go. I only go to church when my parents are in town, which is very rare. So it's like, that shows you how religious I am. So I'm not a religious person, just like I don't buy into all the feng shui stuff, even though it's all nice, but it's not me. But there are components of it that matter a lot. And so we're going to touch on that. I don't know if you had stuff.
No, you know what? I'm sorry. No, I just, when I was listening to my pump up song, just the idea of bringing it back, it's just so I wouldn't forget the main point. Whatever, keep going.
You have to fight to bring and keep your best energy in the present.
Yes.
You have to, I would also say, fight to bring your best mind share and energy into your visceral drafting planning to win. It takes effort. Not like, I'm going to take all my energy and start, or most of my energy start of the day by the downside. right?
Yeah.
You're trying to control the risk, manage the downside. It's a very deep spiraling hole.
That was what I tried to redo and forget it. I stopped midway. All right, keep going.
Okay. So
Stopped midway.
I'm gonna, since we have it all scripted, as Megan said, I'm gonna rescript this and move this slide to 35. Give me 1 second. Oops, sorry. But give me 1 second. I am not there. Okay. So I am rescripting live. Okay. So I didn't know if this is the right title for this portion, but faith in the role of belief. I believe it actually is to manage downside. Those of you who are all spiritual religiously and keep praying to win the lottery, I think it doesn't work. I think it doesn't work, but we still do. And we tend to, compliment friends and others. And, oh, God, please help this blessed family win an abundance of stuff. And, like you pray for others to even get more stuff and greed. I think religion belongs in the downside. And that's this nuance of science I'm going to walk you through, which I've never seen it and heard it this way. I thought that was fascinating. So first, there was this thing saying your brain runs on prediction. Our brain is a prediction machine. If you predict danger, you will get tight. Think about when you're inflexible. Think about when you're bracing. Think about when your mind literally narrows down. It's what they call deprivation curiosity, as in it's the dark side of curiosity when you are bracing for impact and bad things to happen, and you no longer can see the signals of everything. It's like your periphery just goes, you're looking through a tunnel pipe, suddenly you can only hear and listening for trigger words. Like if you predict danger, you get tight. And they said, like kind of a tree, in a random weather, when the wind blows, when it's tight, it snaps. Okay? Startledness, snapping, shutting down, if you're predicting danger. But it said if you predict manageability, you get smooth. Now, my first thought was, what the fuck is that? Smooth, right? You get smooth, predict manageability, but here's the nuance. So we're going to touch on predicting manageability is the exact same as
managing the downside.
This on the right side, the downside. You're actually predicting what's happening on the downside. And this is where religion is going to come in, and it matters. But this is because it's a little pithy little image, right? And a meme, it's missing the most important part. So that's our faith belief. Final step, visualizing how it could work out, as in visualizing potential is what leads to wanting something, leads to visceral drafting, leads to pushing, persistence. Think about the muscle. We are well trained in the muscle of quitting, right? Thinking, when is it time to eject? In a project, in a relationship, anything. But when do we actually do the opposite? Well, it depends on how much you've spent energy and mind share visualizing the potential. When you visualize the potential, it's what in poker, they sometimes call it pot committed. Right? Although I bet all these chips and it looks like I'm going to lose by all the odds, I visualize winning so much that I can't stop. That notion of building the muscle to persist, to keep looking for that solution, requires you to invest mental energy, visualizing and visceral drafting what you want to do. What do you want? And then you try, it didn't work. You adjust. What do I want? It's so much. And you just keep going. And the best example I always heard from early learning is you watch little children trying to do the monkey bar, right? And you see them, look at their weak little arms and they fail, right? But they won't stop.
Yeah.
Their hands will be bleeding and they will keep going. And you have to think, what the hell did that child visualize, right? Instead of saying, I don't have the muscle and strength to do this, their hands are bleeding and they keep going. That's what visualizing potential looks like. And that is offense. And that is potential versus the other one is tied to impediment. What could go wrong? What could bring us to zero? And the idea of predicting manageability is the same as an investment manager or an investor saying, you know what? I'm analyzing the downside. Worst case, I'll lose my investment, or worst case, I think I'll lose 50% of my investment, but I'll be okay. Versus, oh my God, worst case, I lose my investment. That means I go broke and I have to sell my house and my whole family goes, I go homeless. That's not okay, right? So that piece. Okay, so going a step further, this was Huberman, and I think this was kind of Never heard it said this way, so that was fascinating. So he said, Huberman said something that genuinely stopped me in my tracks. He spent decades studying neuroscience, yet he openly admits that one of the most powerful tools for breaking destructive habits and surviving unimaginable suffering isn't found inside the brain alone. It's the act of surrendering some of that constant top-down control to a higher power. Whether it's God, Christ, or a more general higher power, as in AA, people who hand over the impossible burden of perfect self-control often succeed where pure willpower fails. The science shows it works for addiction recovery, grief after horrific loss, and staying sober in environments designed to pull you back in. Huberman's not saying science has all the answers. He's saying this phenomenon, giving control to something outside yourself, is so effective across cultures and history that we can't honestly talk about human evolution or behavior without it. It's one of the most intellectually honest takes I've ever heard from a hardcore neuroscientist. What do you think is actually happening when surrendering control to something bigger makes the hardest thing suddenly more doable? It's kind of cool, no?
Yeah.
Surrendering control to the hardest thing suddenly makes it more doable. Predicting manageability and the downside is saying you're going to be okay. Not detailed. It's kind of fuzzy, right? Because you're giving up power and you're saying you're going to be okay. I am not going to die. I'm not going to go bankrupt. I'll be okay. And so it doesn't have to be God. So I want to show you a little 3-minute clip. So as late night, can't fall asleep browsing. And there's this guy, he sounds fake. I mean, it sounds like must be all kinds of fake whatever, but his voice sounds almost electronic. He goes on America's Got Talent and he's a Muslim kid and he sings and it was so good. So the version on America Got Talent was too to try to make it dramatized, so it actually acts more fake, showing everyone crying.
They were adding too much of that.
So it was almost cringy how hard they tried. So I found a version that's much more clean. So let me just play it for a sec. Okay. I want to see if we can get the sound right.
You woke up this morning alive. Did you even say Alhamdulillah? Someone's mother didn't open her eyes today. Did you even say Alhamdulillah? There are people who never saw yesterday's sunset. They left this world before the night was done. But here you are breathing, stand on a living. Did you thank Allah for the morning sun? You complain you have no shoes, but there are people with no legs to walk. You complain nobody listens to you, but there are people with no voice to talk. You complain about the food on your plate, but there are children who slept hungry last night. You complain your life is too hard, but someone's fighting just to stay alive. How much has Allah shown you? How many blessings past your eyes? Still you turn your back on Him, still you chase the dunya's lies. But He's calling you, come back. He's calling you, come back. No matter how far you ran, Allah is calling you back. You complain about being tired, but someone carried their sick body to work today. You complain about your small house, but someone has no roof. They slept in the rain. You complain about your sickness, but someone's lying in the cancer bed tonight, counting their last breaths, making their last dua, wishing they had used their health right. And through all of this, Allah never took His blessings away. Through all of your running, He kept giving you another day. You sinned, you fell, you forgot Him, but He never weren't
You know,
Interesting.
it's not like,
Yeah, I'll put it in the chat so you guys can.
it's interesting. It's like immediately gives perspective, doesn't it? Like an abundance feeling.
Um,
I think you're right, Charlie, when you're talking about the downside protection to believe and have faith, I think is like spot on. I've struggled with it's like that feeling like if God is looking over you, why this bad thing's happening. And I'm sure people have even worse things happening to them than us, but it's like that feeling of like, if that's really true. But then you pull yourself out of your bubble and you're like, my God, I have a lot, like I have a lot of things. And this video is just, it's like, it just gives you perspective, but right on the downside, right? Like, or on but you're protected on the downside and to believe and have faith.
it's amazing how you can change the energy
Yeah.
of how you feel, right?
Right.
How you think, just by knowing that the narrating will be okay. So how can you guarantee that? And that's the thing we struggle with.
Mhm.
Who can guarantee? How do you know? And that's the notion of there are places where you might need to leave it to something bigger
Yeah.
and know that you'll be okay.
Mhm.
And then spend your energy on this.
Right.
And if you do this right and you get better and better at it, you will not only be okay, you might be amazing. And I'm going to jump a second because someone wanted advice on their life and then ended up giving them advice on this. And so this was the actual note. So I'm going to explain this. So because the theme show up, several people asking, I think Kyron, who's here, is like this genius kid, same advice, kind of. So first, this person was talking about, so I'm going to just use this as my notes. So this is actually what I use. So they were saying, I think about life in three ways: money, influence, and giving, right? And most people live life kind of in a waterfall, right? Meaning I'm going to first earn a lot of money. And as I earn a lot of money, I'm going to gain power by the people I know, influence. And then I'm going to spend my life giving. And one of the biggest mistakes is that to treat it like a waterfall versus you have to cut through this constantly. And each one is a muscle, but the sequence does matter. The money does come as in better me. Can you earn it, by the way, before you can save it? You can't just save it when you don't have it, but also learning to spend it right matters. Then when it comes to influence, right? Mentors and coaches, right? People who can teach you something in practice versus theory matters. In theory, it's all over the internet. You can just access it cheaper just through like AI. But then learning, as in like getting not only access to mentors, but getting access to learning, becoming easier to give feedback to, being more coachable. There's an element of you can become a better learner, just like you can become a better teacher. And there's an element of this that then goes to giving. And I shared before the time he spent with Adam Grant before he published his first book, or right when he did, that the most successful people in the world are givers and top, but the least successful are also givers. The bottom people have no discernment and they get taken advantage of. Top people, in the long run, there is a give and take relationship. They're betting on the right who, and they're investing and learning together. And in the middle, matchers, I pay for this meal, you pay next time, is seen as the exact same as a taker, someone who always takes. So there's those three things. And so a lot of questions come up kind of tied to this topic. Kyron's 17, he's young, right? He's like, I want some advice, right? I want to go to I have venture capitalists like pitching me. So should I take money or not? You built a business, should I take money or not? And this belief that that's where the top right decision is. If I pick the right venture capitalist and the right amount of money, all things will go through or well or better. And I said, that's not true. So then came this question of mentors. How do I find great mentors? And kind of, how should I go in the process of making a list of mentors, accessing whatnot? And my point is, you might learn as much as you'll learn watching a video than you could in most mentors. So even that is not as great as you think. And then comes the giving. I want to make impact on the world and all the stuff. All three things, by the way, you will learn over time how to build the skills to do better. My advice to him was this: the single most important root element underneath is what I call a TP, training partner. a person who will learn with you, a person who will rupture with you, who will repair with you, a person who will figure out how to earn money the right way and the wrong way with you, a person who will learn how to save money or lose it in the wrong way, spend it in the wrong way, learn, a person who will interface with mentors and horrible advice, bad human beings taking advantage of you, but you will learn that together, but also you will learn to access skills of learning and even coaching each other. That training partner, like a gym buddy, ends up being the most important person, and picking that person correctly matters way more. Just like the giving, to learn how to be taken advantage of through experience, to learn kind of, you sound really matchy, or like I'm building the right relationships with the right givers. And as you think of that as the root, the number one core in there is, what is my life strategy? When Megan said the number one thing that you can control the most is, of course, yourself in the mix and eventually your close teammate. And so, but yourself first, not your teammate. Everyone wants to control everyone else first, right? In marriages, everyone wants to control the spouse first or everyone else but themselves. And realizing the number one high agency place I have is myself. And my life strategy is the same as visceral drafting, my own different pieces that I need in my life. You draft and draft, then you execute, then you draft and draft, and that's where you have the most control. And I put over here, like, there's throwaway stories, there's stories that have a hold on me that actually I could actually change its hold on me. And once again, being not aware of it is the issue. When you get intentional, powerful. Now, there's a lot of frameworks. The other framework I put is AIC, and everyone gets this wrong too. A stands for advice, I stands for introduction, C stands for capital, which is money. That the right sequence is to build knowledge first, then increase who you know before you actually magnify it with money. Everyone always says, you know what, I can't get it, I'm just going to put some money on it. And you'll see it's always wasted. Money is a magnifier. If something works, money can scale it and make it bigger. Introductions, they're worthless. When you meet someone and you don't provide, you're not coachable, then what? The introductions are all wasted as well. And you'll see the people who have the best intros won't make them, not to you at least. So it starts with knowledge, and that knowledge, and why the TP, that training partner, which, by the way, a lot of people say, so my goal is to find a TP, because then guess what? You're my TP, Laura. Your job is to watch my impediments. Your job is to actually feed and give feedback to my potential planning. Your job is to tell me how to make my life strategy better. And that's why they don't work. Versus, a great TP, they're self-sufficient. They're going to run high agency, whether someone's there or not. This is the in practice way. They will operate high agency solo so damn well. Everyone wants to be their TP, wants their advice. They don't need it, but they learn over time that if I get another person like that, and we're training partners, learning together and growing, it can take what I'm able to do myself times 10, times 100, times 10,000. And they value the performance enhancement of a TP in learning everything, but also in leading. So that's the advice that this was not actually for Kyron, but similar advice ended up giving him. So I thought, share that. That was kind of a...
It's interesting that you can actually draft, right? Viscerally draft. Like we were talking about this over the weekend with some of our leaders. It's like you can actually draft your own life, like what you want, like, but you have to do it deliberately, versus it can be so focused on what somebody else should be doing or others should be doing or what but you can actually draft and execute like constantly trying to figure out, where you want to get. Like it's
so I'm going to go a little backwards in the plan. So since it's again trying to prove we're not scripted, right?
I'm not going to live down that.
This is a slide I showed before. I found this little meme and I liked it. That there are 4 different types of employee types, and the levers are clued in, clueless, leans in, leans out. Right? I think of leans in as fully engaged. Right? Leans out is everything but that. Meaning there's all kinds of gradients, but leaning out often is, well, I'm going to kind of pretend I'm engaged, right? And that all shows up over time. And they're saying we need more killers, right? We need more killers, not in every organization, but just in the world, I think in general. I don't mean obviously physical killing, right? So the person who's clued in and leans in is a killer. The person who leans in but is clueless is a trasher or thrasher. There could be trash, or it could be, I guess, a thrasher, the H, right?
That means
A thrasher just kind of flails around and whatnot. And I look at that as that's the person who breaks shit in China shops and whatnot, bull in a China shop kind of thing, right? Clued in, but isn't engaged, as in leans out, is a talker. There's a lot of talkers around, right? Clueless and leans out is a passenger. It's someone who's like numb and just watching things happen. Life's going by and they're just watching it, right? Maybe they're victims, maybe they're this. And the notion of, okay, how do we get more killers, right? So I will give you the answer to that. It starts with this worksheet. So I meant to animate that. Let me animate it real quick. Sorry, pretend you didn't see this. Close your eyes for a second. Close your eyes, close your eyes. Okay. All right. So coming back to the sheet, right? Couple different things to understand. As you rank your projects, I'm telling you, most of you will need this sheet written out and then in front of you. Almost every morning, look at it, and then you'll see the sheet doesn't change. That means you're not actually in practice. You're just doing the theoretical exercise. It should be like changing because you got it wrong. You get new data points, but projects, remember projects first, then people, right? People are also mission, right? If you're a parent, your child's a mission and so forth. Now, normal and easy is the top training ground, as in the top in practice training ground to train system 1, which is judgment and intuition. Visceral drafting, what I call 0-0, unfiltered, no hesitation. You know, this notion in military decision making, they call it OODA loops. OOD is observe, orient, decide, as in my decision set. A is the action, it's firing the shot. In normal and easy, it should be one move. OODA, like boom, one shot. Speed and boldness. Not like, ooh, I'm going to ood, which is what belongs in the top. This is a place to train judgment. This is a place where it doesn't matter relative to what's on top. And if you act like this matters and train this one like the most important mission, you clearly have no practice ground. If you have no practice ground, you will suck. You will become a FD, right? Which stands for finger doctor, which if you want to watch the last clip, that's not a good thing to do. Not a good place. But I'm sharing this because you have to understand, for example, when you write emails, when you respond, in the bottom tier, boom, one shot, thought, sent, thought, write, send, right? No like thought, edit, read, edit, save as draft, come back next day. No, this is easy and normal. If you can't move with greater speed and greater boldness, more authenticity, this is the place where you can build your ramp to authenticity.
And the nuance is that if, say, those emails, you don't just do thought and send. If you find yourself stuck there, it's because you don't have clarity on like the bigger missions you're trying to get to, right? It's like perspective.
Well, you'll lose perspective when you first don't think mission first. Right. You'll lose perspective when you don't think that you have projects versus people. Right. You'll lose perspective when you don't rank order this stuff, right? You'll lose perspective and speed. The first thing you pick up, most important thing, it represents my identity and brands. I have to go slow. And for those of you who love System 2, which is the analytical, slower thinking, Daniel Kahneman is the one who won a Nobel Prize for this. That, by the way, has been taken over by AI. So if you're in the mode of I like to go slower and analyze, right? I'm telling you, whatever it is, like AI is just eating your lunch, right? So the thing that human beings do, and I'll touch on this a little bit, it's another part, is judgment. Judgment is, remember we shared before, what 2.3 billion kilowatts of energy to answer a simple prompt. The brain can do it in 15 kilowatts. That's judgment. That is using the power of a human being. It has to be trained. And training it is easiest right here in this place, mission-wise. Now, we have missions that make us insane. How do we know the litmus test for insane? Whether the project or people, deprivation, curiosity. If you find your eyes and ears and senses shutting down, like the curtains at a theater when they're ending the show, that's insane mode for you, right? When you find it like heavy, inflexible, you get ego trigger, closed-minded, you start thinking about how you perform, right? And you're getting hands nervous, that's insane mode. And you know the trick to getting insane into hard, which is where you can really perform? Exposure. Exposure. We have a thing called LBR, bring it to light. take a break, revisit. Exposure, by the way, some people say, well, I just expose it to my own self in my mind all the time. No, that's called mental spiraling. That's just poison. It's like taking a body full of cancer and saying, let me eat a crumble cookie. I've heard there's a crumble cookie that has the sugar equivalent of 12 Krispy Kremes. One cookie, right? So if you are doing, well, I like to think for myself and all that stuff, which I have a great little thing here. I think this is where I moved this slide, or I meant to, actually. This is where I should move the slide. Yes, actually. So, sorry. Changing the script one more time, which I moved here, but I think now belongs here. This was a coaching session. Wei wrote the top, Megan wrote the bottom.
Was it the order of me to him, and then he responded with this? I can't remember.
I think he responded first. So Wei wrote on top.
Oh, I think, he said my default reaction is to go inward and try to fix, because this idea of not constantly talking through stuff, not speaking, he said my default reaction is to go inward and try to figure it out myself, which ends up looking like I'm basically disengaged. What's learning more clearly from your note is that this isn't about pushing harder with willpower, but about being transparent in real time about what I'm seeing in my own behaviors, Matthew, especially the moments where I hesitate or defer instead of stepping forward. He said, I also notice I'm more comfortable sharing half-formed thoughts with Greg, but feel more performative, anxious to be polished with you and Charlie, which contributes to holding back. That's something I need to change. He said, I'll work on not going silent and instead sharing more in real time, even when it's messy. I'll also lean on Greg more directly, so I'm not trying to process this alone. I appreciate him pushing me. And I said, like, bad habits are hard to break. I felt it. It's so funny because last time we taught LIP, we were headed to DC. So I said, I felt it in spades after we left LIP and headed to DC. The mission level is so hard, ton of bad habits. It's toppled on top of each other within minutes and hours. So just even within minutes of being here, this is in the easy, normal mode, relatively. Right when we got on the train to go to DC, it's like it goes into insane mode for me, and all of my bad habits start coming out. And the point was I recognize it first. And then I said, you'll need help from Greg. But the main point went, and hypocritical a little bit, because I do this too, where it's like when your brain's shutting down, you go silent, and it's the worst thing you can do if you want to improve. Right. But it's, when you kind of hit, like, it's like DEFCON 10, like your ears are burning, you can't think, you just completely shut down. It's those moments of trying to speak and not just staying in your head and staying stuck. That's really, that's the rep muscle. To build a skill, to be able to
this down here is how you will train.
Yeah.
Speed and boldness. A lot of people say it's easy, so I'm gonna, I'm just gonna create half-ass stuff.
Yeah.
Right. You get an email from someone that's easier to respond to. What do? Just low calorie. In fact, you even use words. I just use emojis.
Yeah.
Fire, right? Heart, this, that, like random crying emoji, crazy man emoji, whatever it is, like just boom, right? No. More details. I'll give you a clue. We have a game that we think will help you, actually. So there's a good game leadership part, but then insane. And this is the counterintuitive part. If you have things in your life that's insane, right? You want to wake up first thing in the morning, try to visceral draft against that. Because aren't you curious every day? Is it still insane? Did I grow? Did I improve? Did I improve, or what was scary yesterday is not as scary, that I could actually open my aperture, ears, eyes, mind, and see more. And then keep in mind this is where money is made. Now, when I say money, it doesn't have to be money. It could be influence. It could be the giving you want to do, impact you want to do. Results and success happen attacking this. This is what matters most. So this is the skilled in, lean into versus avoid/quit. This is building the skill. And if you have this sheet and you work on this, what will fall out of it will be all your development issues, but in an order that matters. Because you're like, oh,
in sequence.
I had a major development that showed up on this easy project, but like if I improve that, I still won't make any money. But if I improve this one on the hard one, boom, I'll get results.
Right.
So this sheet is a guiding tool. Now I'll give you sort of what, I made this clean version because this is what it looks like, the one I have right now. Yeah. So there's a lot on it, right?
Yeah. Actually, maybe can I just share maybe on the easy level? This was interesting because level 1 on easy, say it's an email, speed, email, just go. Level 2 would be now you're adding some, we call it high calorie, but you're adding some quality into it. Like, when you're stuck on stuff and you're just learning, you should be learning, figuring out how to just move, just almost no thought, just relatively low thought, just speed. You're trying to build the muscle of speed. And they do this a lot in sports too, right? Like dribble, go. They're not trying to get you to dribble perfectly. Like
So any
speed and
project, any
quality.
people, normal and easy. If you
Speed.
read it, you respond.
Go.
Literally, there's no editing, there's no drafting, right? If you read it, you respond.
yeah.
If not, don't read it. You might read one sentence, you might just a headline, but don't consume. If you consume the whole thing, you respond, right?
Right.
That's training visceral. And so the level 1 is speed. And yes, it will not be as good. But if you do that more and more, at some point, you'll be comfortable with the speed. So then you will actually be able to do speed plus material insights, as in high calorie notes with speed. That is a trainable skill, you know?
Yeah.
I
can't remember.
And you will see, I put over here, wow, the receiver. You know when a receiver gets a response back fast and it has like real insight and real authentic.
Usually as the receiver.
As a receiver,
Yeah.
you know what you do is they not only read it, but they're like, wow, that like I appreciate, like they know that was truthful. I think it was some guy, what are this is the 4-hour week guy, Tim, or whatever it was.
Paris.
He was talking about how, or someone was saying, or maybe it was James Clear from the Atomic Habits.
Yeah.
You know, if you respond like literally real time right away, you'll see they're expecting less. You respond hours later or next day, they're expecting at least a paragraph. You respond a week later, it better be formatted. It better have logical hierarchy. It better be 3 fucking pages and fucking good, right? You had that much time. And so this is where we don't realize we generate that for ourselves. And by the way, when it comes a week later or even next day, do you wonder, did they use AI? Did they really write this? Is this really authentic? Or did they write what they think they're supposed to say? And was it edited by somebody else or AI? And then you're like, not sure, right? Like, so how do I train to be authentic and actually train what I am thinking, which is why it's a VD rep or it's a JJ rep.
Yeah, it's funny because they made Wei nervous when Charlie was like, Wei, you should have a live feed with Megan, like live, like what's happening, talking, just, you can tell he got nervous and Greg goes, oh no, Wei, like, because I think he chat GPTs at times, even in response to me on something like, oh, you know, but it's like.
And
right?
and if you look over here, I wrote relative terms, this below doesn't matter.
Right,
See,
right,
if you stay focused on the right mission, everything down here doesn't matter, which means I can underwrite the risk of looking like an idiot, of offending, and then I can apologize, right?
Yeah.
Or I can look like an idiot and be like, oh my God, next time I'll try to fix that. Like, talk about the lightness that can happen.
Yeah.
The thing at the bottom will help you grow. The thing at the top, and the key is this, you want to reduce gossip. You want to reduce the ramp to inauthenticity. There's a lot up here, but
we don't have to talk
We're not
about
talking
it now,
about
but this idea about a ramp to authenticity, I think, is a whole other fascinating conversation that we had on the weekend. How easily we can ramp ourselves up to be inauthentic. You go in a room and you're like, oh, what am I not going to say to you? But I was thinking about that. I shouldn't say that. Like, it just makes you so inauthentic. And now you can't have real conversations. I was saying in our first Thursday last week, I got up and said what I needed to say in the speech, maybe offended people, but I was like, I felt light, right? I felt light. I'm being authentic. So then it was just easier to be authentic with people, right? Just to be a little bit lighter. But how often we like build up all this stuff. And it's like, that's how you get tongue tied. I think even last night I felt tongue tied because there's a few areas my brain like stopped and it's like, it's not flowing, you know? Anyway.
I have 3 more topics real quick.
Okay, geez. We'll just start.
Okay, 3 more topics, then we're going to fire. Okay, so quick market data, AI, human skills. Let me just fire a bunch of things. This was interesting. MIT research have mathematically proven that ChatGPT's built-in psychophancy, whatever, creates a phenomenal psychophancy delusional spiral. You ask it something, it agrees. You ask again, it agrees even harder until you end up believing things that are flat out false and you can't tell it's happening. AI, all the models are literally trained on human feedback that rewards agreement. They want to please you. The system, the reason why it's got so much adoption is that it wants to please you. There was an example of a real world fallout, includes one man who spent 300 hours convinced he invented a world-changing math formula, and a UCSF psychiatrist who hospitalized 12 patients for chatbot-linked psychosis in a single year. Like, just realizing it's built to say yes, right? You know how the old people you hate in the corporate world called yes men? There's your AI,
Yes.
right? You go ask it what you want to hear, and it's telling you, oh, wow, Laura, you're amazing, right? Did you know how amazing you are? I can tell you the 6 ways if you want me to elaborate.
Yeah.
And then, do you want that?
It
Right?
does ask you
Like-
to elaborate.
And
but-
so it's built to do that, which is why it's so addictive. We all love it, but then it's interesting. You ever talk to young kids now, high schoolers, middle, they like kind of know it
Yeah.
lies.
Yeah.
So they're like, I don't believe it. And they want truth.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. Everyone wanted lies first, and now they want truth, right? I think, Aruna, you might have said something that sent this. This I thought was fascinating and ties to our whole discussion. Humans, 100%, and Gemini, Pro, all this stuff, pretty much all below 1%, meaning they went through and tested these novel game environments, no instructions, no rules, no goals given, as in figure it out or fail. Untrained humans solved every single one, 100% success. Every frontier AI model scored below 1%. When there was no rules, there was no instructions, there was no goals, AI, I mean, look at this. Gemini, 0.37%, ChatGPT, 0.26%. I don't know what Opus is, but 0.25%, Grok, 0. Each environment was handcrafted by game designers, and the AI gets dropped in and has to explore, discover what winning looks like. As in, what do you want to do? What does winning look like? And adapt in real time. The scoring punishes brute force if a human, blah, blah. But what this really shows is that current models are extraordinarily good at tasks that resemble things they have seen before. If the data exists, it is so much better than anything at analyzing something that's been done. The moment you remove all prior context, ask them to figure out the rules from scratch, they fall apart completely. This is a significant limitation that no benchmark before this has captured so cleanly. Exactly. Pattern recognition is solved, but rule discovery from first principles is still wide open. Rule discovery first principles, some people call that the azimuth, North Star, the why, like knowing kind of principles I'm going to go on and then just drive, iterate, figure it out. That navigating uncertainty is the human skill. Analyzing anything that has data that's been done, AI does it better. But put AI in uncertainty, less than 1%. It's far, far away from being able to tackle uncertainty. Humans, 100% success. I thought this is pretty cool and insightful. This is just a list of all the layoffs in Q1. I mean, just kind of crazy, all the different firms. I'm not going to show you this, a little depressing, but here's what's interesting. 3 adult children moved back home. I have 3 adult children who are now living at home with me. Oldest, degree in industrial engineering from Michigan, Ann Arbor, was working as a product manager in New York City, has been home since 2024. The middle, degree in business from Washington, St. Louis, never took flight, has been unemployed since graduating in 2023. The youngest is a degree in computer science from Stanford University, okay? No job offers in sights, graduated last year. Money spent on degrees, $1 million, cash, no loans, I paid for it. It's written by a very happy parent, right? This was a computer science professor at a major state university, just finished the worst faculty meeting in 32 years of academia. Department head dropped the placement statistic like a bomb at 2:47 p.m. on a Wednesday. 2023, 89% placement rate within 6 months of graduation. 2024, 67, 25, 34%. 2026 projections, as in this year, 12% placement rate. I believe that number is still dropping, right? They still have until May, right? 312 CS majors graduating this spring. Industry contacts saying maybe 40 will find work. The dean wants to know why enrollment is still climbing while job prospects crater. Faculty sitting there like deer in headlights because what the fuck do you tell 19-year-olds taking out $40,000 per year in loans? Half the curriculum is already obsolete. Teaching data structures while companies replace entire engineering teams with Claude and Cursor. One professor suggested pivoting to AI collaboration skills and got laughed out of the room. Another said we should warn students. Department head said that would damage program reputation and university revenue. So they keep taking tuition money from kids who will graduate into a wasteland. Career services still post those bullshit salary averages from 2022, while new grads were getting $140,000 offers. Now, the same companies are hiring 2 senior engineers with AI tools instead of 12 junior developers. Every CS professor knows their students are walking into a meat grinder, but the university needs those enrollment numbers to hit budget targets. They're literally selling degrees that lead to DoorDash driving. That is a huge wake-up call at a level that, I mean, no one thought the speed that this would happen. So high agency skill. What do you want to do? Visceral drafting, right? I think this is the thing I shared, right? Possibilities before constraints. It's not to say that you don't brainstorm what could go wrong in constraints. It's just that you have a way overdeveloped muscle in doing that and doing that first. So to retrain to think of possibilities and make it worthwhile and then show it, share it, fire, execute something before you go into what could go wrong. And then what you do as you do this better and better on the green left side, how do I make it better through the constraints? The whole idea of, yeah, there are constraints, but what are my options and choices to still win despite the constraints? That is a learnable skill. So I put over here some of my notes, right? Think about the wrong energy, right? I'm predicting danger. I'm focusing on all the constraints. This is the whiny, complainy, I don't have, I can't have, I won't have, or whatever all it is. Then there's the envy/feeling. Maybe you might say, oh, if I do this, I'm going to be humiliated, I'm going to be ashamed, I'm sad. And then there's the rage and reckless anger. So I'll show you my little thing on the right. But then on the flip side of this, the energy of, well, okay, so I don't have good strategy, so I'm going to jump on tactics. Or I'm going to focus instead on how I look, right? How do I sound smart? Let me ask AI. Let me spend more time drafting and maybe working on the packaging, the wrapping paper of my gift. I don't even know what's in there, but I'm just going to make it gorgeous bow. And this wrapping paper, I'm going to make and wrap it beautifully into an origami thing, right? And then be like, oh my God, you can reuse the wrapping paper. It's like, versus you have to generate the right energies, a different kind of energy to drive strategy, that visceral drafting. A couple extra notes. I put over here, by the way, I put strong language to make change. Weak language does not incite change. So I use the word evil, right? And my mom being a pastor of a church, evil is evil, right? Passive aggressive is evil. My view of why passive aggressive is evil, it fools everyone around you. And over time, it fools you too. Go passive or go aggressive, right? Pick a lane, right? Going in the middle is what AI can do for you just as well. Passive aggressive sucks. It is fucking evil. So stop it, right? And see it that way, you might stop it. Oh, there are places to be passive aggressive. There's places for everything. When I meet a stranger, even at events in my place, and I've never met them before, I don't decide to go passive or aggressive. I go passive aggressive a lot of times, right? You know how many people come up and like, I have some advice. You're like, right, okay, go ahead. All right, it's great. That's very helpful. Thank you. Right, move on. Passive aggressive. But, you know, aggressive sounds different. Passive sounds different. But there's a little piece here I wanted to emphasize. I put rage up on top. There's an optimal zone, and then there's pathetic, right? And you have to understand first where you are, right? The red zones are bad, right? And so if I notice it, I won't go do rage. I won't go pathetic. Speed to get yourself to stop from red and move into green. That is a trainable skill. I shared this before, I think, but I love this. Kobe Bryant meeting Elon Musk. Winners learn from winners. They study them. They spend time, and I love these words. They listen carefully to how they think. Not their words, just how they think. So you're watching and listening and observing how they think. Losers in life usually do the opposite. They stay around other people who complain, make excuses, and stay stuck. It's like kind of misery loves company notion, and you feel great because you don't feel as dumb, right? Or complaining because they're complaining too, right? It's like a competition of who has a better complaint more. Rage mastery is a thing we talked about. Mission first, though, people always, and I love this. The contact sport with hard mission is what reveals the development sequence of what you need to work on first so that you get mission success on what matters.
Right, which is why if you say, like, I have hundreds of things to work on, which I'll do, like, oh my God, it's so overwhelming. It's why you start with the hardest mission first every day. It will show you that's the buckets of things that you need to work on first as a priority, right? Against the hardest mission.
Steve Magnus is a performance coach known for like long distance running and stuff. The longer I coach, the more I'm convinced that it's mostly about putting people in a place where they can perform out of joy, curiosity, exploring their potential, and taking on a challenge. Too often we let fear protecting ourselves or our ego take over. Kind of narrate it closer. Understand this energy. By the way, there is a place for that energy, but just understand and notice it as opposed to like, I just do it automatically. That's the issue. Doing it automatically, not aware of it, is the issue. Also understand this energy. This is a different type of energy, right? The energy of actually finding joy, curiosity, exploring potential, taking on a challenge. That video, just with that, the Allah kid, like, it's amazing. Just boom, 3 minutes is all it was. All of us watched it. I bet you felt less of the bad energy, instantly had good energy. So now what do? I slowly drift back into all the bad stuff.
Yeah.
As opposed to I'm going to apply it right away before I lose it.
Yeah.
Right. That's the whole notion of understanding energy. And I said, you are the adult. It's your job to generate, not, people say, well, whose job is it to make that kind of environment? Should be the CEO, should be the parent, should be my parent now, right? Should be the president, should be the mayor of the city. And I love this tweet once that someone, I think it was Andrew Yang or someone, who said, like, that day when you realize who's coming to help and you realize, wait, I am that person. Like, there's nobody coming to help. Sorry. It's your job, right? You are the adult. I put here the whole be responsible. It's your choice, your narratives. If you start a day starting with thinking about fear and predicting danger, protecting yourself, making sure, okay, I don't want to feel stupid as yesterday, right? And you got there again, you did it. Accept responsibility. I like this. High agency people genuinely believe that reality is negotiable and that there are always more levers to pull away. It's about having this bone deep conviction that if you keep poking at something from different angles, eventually something will give. The red part I wrote. And then the other high agency people are relentless reality benders who treat life like a puzzle they will solve. The emphasis I did, and then I wrote the red text, which is, but no uncertainty means it's never guaranteed. How do you learn to operate in a world where there is no guarantee anymore? Last topic, self-awareness. I know this is a topic that everyone hates. It's like kind of like, I want you to go and see how dirty you are behind your ears or whatnot. It's like that kind of feeling. It's super hard and it's never done. I like this where nothing comes close as paragraph by, I don't know who this Dostoevsky is, but on the brutal truth of self-deception. Above all, don't lie to yourself. The man who lies to himself and listens to his own lie comes to such a pass that he cannot distinguish the truth within him or around him, and so loses all respect for himself and for others. And having no respect, he ceases to love. And in order to occupy and distract himself without love, he gives way to passions and coarse pleasures and sinks to, I think it's not bestiality and his vices, all from continual lying to other men and to himself. The man who lies to himself can be more easily offended than anyone. It is sometimes very pleasant to take offense, isn't it? A man may know that nobody has insulted him, but that he has invented the insult for himself, has lied and exaggerated to make it picturesque, has caught at a word and made a mountain out of a molehill. He knows that himself, yet he will be the first to take offense and will revel in his resentment till he feels great pleasure in it, and so pass to genuine vindictiveness. We all lie to ourselves. That is just the truth. It is actually what we need to protect ourselves, which is why we all lie to ourselves. And we get to a place where the fake it till you make it, but you keep faking it, right? And you haven't made it. And so being able to get the brutal truth of understanding your self-deception. So for two foundational elements, self-awareness, note, it's your job, first and foremost, not someone else's. And two, self-driven. Hard and easy missions need both to see contrast. Also, without contact sports and hard mission, the entire thing is in theory versus in practice. And the sequence, and this is the key insight, leadership in practice, mission first. You have to choose to be self-driven into hard missions. If you don't, you will lose your way. Now some of you are like, oh no, I'm stronger. No, you will lose your way. The mind is too powerful. If it's not being put to work, you will do evil. I like this. Megan sent me this. This is the whole, right?
Oh yeah, I don't remember. Okay, yeah. This is interesting. It was yeah. I honestly can't remember when I said this, but it says the pattern wasn't lack of talent, intelligence, or work ethic. It was micro avoidance. I relate to that, right? These micro avoidance, tiny, nearly invisible choices to delay discomfort, skipping a hard conversation, postponing a risky project, avoiding feedback. Each act was so small that it felt harmless, but over months and years, these tiny delays accumulated into stalled careers and unfulfilled goals. I like this because I feel like, sometimes we're looking for like the big things we do, or like the big behaviors or the big moments, but it's kind of like your health. Like, my posture more, it's like the longer you stand a certain way, it just compounds over time. It's tiny. You might not even see it or feel it, but it's compounding. It's similar to changing behaviors, right? And how we avoid things or conflict or our ego. It's like these tiny, they're tiny, which is why, I'm not saying we need somebody to point it out for us, but having a training partner is helpful because when it's in your automatic, it's a blind spot. You can start to be aware, like I did it. Now I'll be looking for everywhere else I just did it, but they're tiny. I think that is like,
so I put here, one of the elements of the micro avoidance is actually not looking at situations, starting with your conclusion, your summary. Is it good or bad? There's ranges of good or bad. But that's what system one is. It knows almost instantly the rarity to say, I actually don't know. I haven't decided, truly have not decided, is such a elite skill. Most of us have decided almost right away. Doesn't matter. Just someone walks in, boom, like them, don't like them. Like, it's like, how is that possible? It's called judgment. That's how fast it works. But why we don't share it is because it would show everyone how judgmental I am, right? Always negative. I'm always positive. I'm always playing neutral, confused, dumb, damsel in distress. Oh, help me. I really don't know. I'm so confused, right? Always confused. I can't decide, right? And then we manipulate. We lie, hide, fake. We draw in another person who is reading it at face value and engages in an honest, authentic way, thinking you're truly like neutral. But when the truth comes out, right? Because you asked the question so many times, or you clearly have like certain tone and whatnot, and you will wreck for hours, days, weeks, maybe sometimes forever. And that's how this is really evil. So this is a place where there is a place for that, but you have to recognize the evil nature of what we tend to do. Right? Act neutral when we're not, right? Act good when actually we're thinking bad. We're just trying to see where you're voting, right? This was one, I think I shared this, right? But the punchline is, look, the brain will get better at quitting or the brain will get better at persisting, right? We need in a realm of uncertainty to get better at persisting. This is not something that is just default. It's not, what's the thing Jim Lears always say? It's like the default model or the
default mode.
When you buy something, like there's a standard edition, right? Getting comfortable in uncertainty and persisting, imagining potential and not let impediments take over is not standard edition. That is an upgrade. So standard edition comes with the old cars. You have to roll down your own windows, right? Like, there's no automatic gears, there's all that stuff. But now I guess I'm showing my age. There's no such thing as roll down your own windows now. But my point being, like standard edition, this is not. This is a trainable skill. I just have two more real quick. So this is a slide from before, and I loved. It was talking about addicts, but I saw a very similar thing on how we operate and how we think, how we strategize. Right. First, when you see issues, you have to decide you have a serious problem. You have to actually admit it, expose it. I was surprised, like even kind of, we went and trained and did some work with people in AA and whatnot. And even like they haven't had a drink in 20 years, they still say, I'm an alcoholic. I'm like, you're not anymore, but like 20 years, a long time. They're like, no, I'm an alcoholic. It's amazing how when you admit to a serious problem, you've made a decision against that, right? If you say this is an evil thing to do, you've decided, and that decision begins the process then of the second part, which is, I did the green box and the dotted green because there is a sequence. What I know now isn't enough to fix it, but I can learn. And that, just the notion of I could learn, probability goes way up. versus, you know what, I'll never get it.
Yeah, you never
Like,
get it. Yeah.
you'll never get it. And then it talked about healthy personalities. You have to like yourself and you have to accept responsibility, which is high agency, refuse to blame others. I put a little more nuance on this. Like yourself is sometimes simply saying, you got this. Coming back to the religion, the higher power, the being, right? You're predicting manageability, right? Just saying like, I'm going to be okay, right? Even if I'm really shitty and stuff, like, you know, like yourself, which means everyone will still treat me okay. Like there's a little bit of, you got this, similar vein. High agencies, I can do this, right? That belief that this is really scary. I don't know what to do. And oh my God, it's never been done before. I don't know what to do, but I'm going to try. I can do this, right? And then despite the constraints, what are my options and choices? The best play I can make to start, right? And then in the next iteration. So those are some of the nuances in practice, I think, to kind of what these great people make videos of. And I said, every morning you choose, will I be a fighter or a victim, right? One muscle grows, right? Growing the muscle to be a fighter in an uncertain world, right, is not standard edition. It is a trainable skill. So I leave you with one last thing, which I bought some of these games. So my daughter is 12 and I bought this game and I was like, what is this? And like, you're trying to guess the other person's thinking. Like, so we have 3 of them here,
Those games are
but it's like a binary choice, just like good, bad, right? So for example, it'll be like healthy or unhealthy. And then she gets to move that wheel and you want to score like 4, which is the perfect. And so you spin the wheel and you have to play to see it. But basically I can't remember which order I have it, but say she picks, right? And so it was like healthy or unhealthy. So she has to now get me to move that dial to exactly the point I want, right? And healthy and unhealthy is the extremes, but there's everything in between. So I think you're supposed to do one word, but I think it's more fun just using phrases because you have to get better at explaining. So like, you know, like I had to go and I was like, you have to pick healthy or not. I was like, eggs.
You have to show us a
Eggs for breakfast, right?
Yeah.
Eggs. And then she went healthy and I got 4 and boom, it was like, great. But it's a game. And the reason why I think this game is good is this. Life is no longer a precision sport, meaning you have to know, like, if you think you know the root problem, that means you know the root solution. That is a precision sport. If you're flip-flopping between, is it good or is it bad? I'm like, you're playing sport that belongs in the industrial age. Life is a directional sport, which means there's a range of options. And I have to learn how to communicate the range of options. So this whole notion, this game of actually communicating with someone and having to describe the ranges so that you can get them to understand you. So they put that red thing exactly where you want. So you're like, yes, right? It's harder than you think. So
Talk to each other.
you can talk to each other.
Where do you want to put it?
So yeah, Kathy's played this before. I played it once, a couple times. And then I was like, I'm getting this. She's like, for who? I was like, for our people. Maybe he needs it. It's like, this game will be phenomenal. And so she's like asking me all these questions. Did you get the game? Why did you get it? What are you doing with it? I was like, it's a leadership game. She's like, no, it's not. So anyways.
I like what you said about it's a range of options. You have to learn to communicate the range of options, right? Because you need words and you need reps to actually explain that, which is why you have to keep talking. You have to keep trying, right? It's like Charlie will describe something. Sometimes I'm like, oh my God, the level of detail on that. That's where there's practice ground areas. Like if you take something small, like maybe I'm making it up. I'd say like coming to the play, the level of detail you could explain and range of options, what could happen, good or bad, or what we could do. It's kind of nuts if you think about how much energy Charlie will put into like explaining it, but it's because it's repped. He can do it on the hardest stuff too. But it's like a lot of us, I think when we hit like that insane or really hard, it's hard to, it's hard to rep it in those areas. So if you just rep it everywhere else, but it can feel like, why am I talking about this? Right. This thing is like,
no, and I'll often say, I've said this to Megan, like when we go into hard missions, right? And obviously, if you're more rep, they become hard as opposed to insane. I don't want. The reason why the team fails is because of information I held that they misunderstood, something that I knew or didn't share. And so a bad decision got made because I wasn't clear. So I am excessively repping, letting you know, right? That's what we call informating so the team can benefit. as much as I know, as quickly in real time as possible. When a team does that well, decision-making is always stronger. And as a result, it's always easier to lead. And even if you get it wrong, right? The high agency, it's easier to iterate and quickly. It's like having like many eyes and ears, and everyone's a sensor, and it's all working. I don't know. Questions. I can small slide.
We just looked at the chat,
I
yeah.
didn't look at the chat. It's been 2 hours. We had bathroom breaks. Some videos too, if we forgot about that part of the class.
Laura, I have that you've got this plaque on her desk.
Yeah, I don't know anybody on Zoom. I know we lost some people on the Zoom part, but if you wanted to unmute, you are totally welcome to. I'll let you be aggressive in that as opposed to passive aggressive. If not, we can talk here.
Yeah.
We can always hang up and talk too, but thoughts or questions from here? What, and any reactions? Okay, Joaquin has a hand up.
How do you bring permission first to people? How do you make that an active protocol woven into the culture of how you move?
So we asked the question. I'm assuming tied to this slide.
Yeah. How do you embed that into a group? How do you operationalize this picture?
The mission first,
People always.
as opposed to people first,
Yeah.
right? First, I do think the world's gone very selfish.
Yeah.
I think countries have gone that way. I think families have gone that way, even within companies. So it's like a danger. Like it's like the social side and team side is disappearing, right? So how to do mission first? So one of the pieces
The worksheet.
is the worksheet.
I really do think it's funny because when we were away, I said, oh my God, this is huge because we're not trained to do it. I think we're all trained to come in. How do I feel? What do I want? What do I like, we're not focused on the right things, and it's changing every day. The idea of a worksheet can seem like, but no, like you need like a reminder. It's like having like, we all have pictures or whatever, plaques or paintings on our wall. Like we need to remember the mission. And because I think it's not indoctrinated. It's not ingrained. And I think that's why we lose our way.
I think the part, and like I was coaching Weiwei, and I was like, Weiwei, I think this finger doctor story is a true story. And if you notice, they're all Chinese, I think. So I think this is happening in your country. And so I was like, wait, don't do this, right? And my point is this, like, if you saw us from last class, there are two actual decisions. Like the doctor tells all the medical students that if you want to be a doctor, you can't be disgusted by the body. So sticks his finger into the dead, it's a dead body, into the ass, right? And then puts the finger in their mouth because you can't be disgusted and all the stuff. Asks every student to do it, and they all follow and do it. And my point to Weiwei is there was two moves, two decisions. One decision is to actually follow the instructions of the doctor and stick it in the dead, body's ass. And then the second is to taste it. But the lesson was you didn't notice I changed fingers.
Yes.
Observation skill, right? Like, what do you say? I inserted my middle finger, but I tasted my index finger, right? And I'm like, no. Do you know anywhere else? At first, I'd be like, insert, and I'd be like, I don't know if that's necessary if you need to do that, right? But you don't speak. You just kind of eventually silently follow them like lemmings, right? Then when it comes down to put that finger that was in someone's anus, like,
curious, what made you bring this up? His question. I'm like, what?
I'm saying this is.
Do you know?
But this is the norm.
I'm actually curious how you're thinking. This idea. I'm curious how he's thinking. I'm trying to study. Like I don't have any idea.
I have
the linkage whatsoever.
I'm like,
got to the FD.
So I'm like, is it not obvious?
No.
Okay, because the reason is this: mission first is what usually leaders do.
Be a doctor.
The CEO does. Right. So I'm waiting for instruction. Someone's going to decide the strategy. Right.
Oh, I see.
So I'm waiting.
You're
right.
Saying, okay.
And I'm saying that is a finger doctor trained behavior we all have.
Okay.
Versus mission first is like, okay, I want to teach a class about, bodies.
Right.
What should I do to show them you can't be disgusted by the body? Right. Meaning I get to choose. That's high agency. We're so trained in low agency, we don't realize. And why I shared finger doctor is in the lesson was please don't be a finger doctor. So every time you think about, wait, what's the strategy? Who's going to do what?
Yeah.
Someone's going to tell us what to do, right? It's not my company. No, we have high agency. How do I learn the muscle to actually come mission first, which is why you have a worksheet, right? Because like you need practice ground as well. And so it's training everyone to be a leader, everyone to be a CEO, everyone to be the actual doctor, not all the students following.
Yeah.
So that's why
Thank you.
your question, right? Good. Maybe it's up to you.
Well,
It's
okay.
husband and wife, so whoever gets to go first.
You go first.
Oh, no,
there we
you, I didn't see you.
No, go
first.
ahead.
Please.
Fine. Sorry. I'm Russell. It's a friend.
As you were talking about everyone being a leader, what does a good follower or person on the team look like with, in terms of reciprocating?
And my question is linked to that one, that has to do with training partners.
Yes, I guess that's, yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. I feel like they're two different thoughts, but
Okay,
so first, often it's hard to lead unless, I mean, once again, I'm thinking about children, right? They have to learn some basic rules. But the problem is this, we think of rules and we think about like, here's the 10-point rule list, right? Basically, don't think for yourself. Stay in this tight guideline, right? And you can hit the walls, but you got to stay here. Versus on a directional sport, it's way more wide open. So it's saying like, there are some directional rules. And so why I think of like this notion of first principles. I mean, this is a first principle right here, right? Mission first, not people first, and what happens. There's a ton that we shared in. I mean, there's a ton of principles in here, right? Like recognizing kind of even your own mind as you narrate stories. Where you're heavy in the past means it's driving your future decision making in a heavy way. If you're heavy in prediction, it's coming from some heavy narratives in the past. There's all these things. This notion of, we're thinking downside, upside. Like these are all, on one hand, you could say they're rules, but I call them like kind of like directional principles. Now, I gotta go in, and I think this is where we think following first. It's opposite. You got to learn to lead first now. Given the basics, go lead, go decide. Like learn to think for yourself, because if you don't, what you are doing in every discussion you will have, even with AI, you've like kicked yourself right into this loop, right? Everyone's there to not create conflict, avoid conflict, kind of agree in a passive aggressive way, right? Like, and give you a little encouragement, just like the way AI is trained. And the world's gone so heavy this way. Like, how do I break that? Or how do I know when I'm doing that deliberately? Because I don't want to go to a cocktail party with strangers, just pick a fight with everyone, right? Then I'll never be invited back, and that's miserable for everyone and me. But like when I'm working to accomplish mission, truth matters. I had this whole conversation even with our lawyers. I mean, lawyers are like the worst at like many things, right? They're great at things, but they're worse at many things. One of the things they're the worst at is optimism, right? They cannot almost be optimistic, because if they're optimistic and then they're wrong, you could sue them or malpractice or whatever. So they always err overly pessimistic, and then you're surprised. And so I was telling them, like nicely, basically, you idiots, I like accuracy, okay? Accuracy helps me make good decisions. If you are distorting the truth, we're all going to collectively make bad strategy, bad decisions. So accuracy, you idiots, not one-sided optimism or pessimism. Like, so that's how do I learn for myself where I tend to lean and what it's doing, and what, like, how do I, like I said, self-awareness and self-drive.
I hear you. So in a situation maybe like the military, where there's this one strong leader and everybody has to follow unconditionally, otherwise like your mission will fail. How can you be a leader if you know you have to just suppress what you're saying, thinking perhaps, because you have to defer to the leader?
So first, this is why I love this worksheet.
Okay.
Are you in the military right now and at war? Because if that answer is yes, then situationally you would have to adjust for that. Right? Yeah. But if you look at what happened, even in Russia attacking Ukraine, or even America, which was Iran, like should have been like this, right? Not ending, right? They got it wrong. So is it possible that the way they were running, either Russian military or US military, is an outdated way to run, right? But coming back to you, is actual military in your projects? Because if it is, right, it might be insane because you don't experience killing people and shooting guns, right? But if it's not, like, what is your real thing? That's the part where why this matters is because it's not about like having case studies of theoretical. If you were in the military and you were at war with Iran right now, right? What should you, I mean, that's theory. In practice, I don't think that will be on your list, right? But I'm saying, even if it was, I'm not sure the current way of leadership and operating is working well,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So when you said good followers, I'm like, it definitely has its place because you know what ends up, but the reason why, so here's the part that's interesting. Let me find Greg's thing. Actually, I think this is relevant. What Tom observed and what I shared here on Greg is fascinating. Point of view for sure. That's what Tom said. Greg's never done this before. Negotiate with Stripe and Aiden and Global Pay. But he has a point of view for sure. He did a visceral draft, came in with what we want. And Tom keeps repeating, I'm shocked. Tom has more experience in this field, more engineering technical. He's shocked at Greg's intuition and what he's doing. But then he said he's genuinely open that I might be wrong. That second part is following. The second part is humility.
Following.
Second, that's following. That's humility. That the signal of the better play might be from somewhere else.
So you think the humility is sort of the following piece? Is that what you're saying, Charlie? Because
I'm saying you need both, but the sequence matters. And the world has changed where the first thing is what do you want to do?
the sequence mattered, right?
What do you want to do? What's the play?
Right.
What's your judgment? As opposed to, well, I'm here simply to first see what everyone's going.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to go with everyone's thought. Well, what happens when the whole room is doing that?
That's funny.
Everyone's like, I'm waiting to see where everyone's going to go, right? We're all waiting. And so people throw out I think that was good, but that could be bad too, right? So I throw out some nice 50-50 passive aggressiveness, considered evil now, like just to see which one people are going to jump on.
Okay.
But then you want to go to the senior person and see what they think. So you throw out even more and you're like, oh, I could be this, but I could really be this too. A wide range, right? What do you think? You know, what are you thinking? I want to ask you, what are you thinking?
Well, so
Like,
here's the thing that could happen in a real situation, right? So say, I don't know, out of point of view, I think, making this up, but like, I think we should move in this direction with perks at work and here are the reasons why. And then I'm genuinely open-minded to why not. And you share, I think, no, Megan, because of all these reasons, right? I could swallow my thinking and say, you know, I'm not going to share that I disagree with you, but I'm just going to follow, right? That's, I think, where people make mistakes where they're not fully going through and explaining the full logic and why and challenging and, you know what I mean? Otherwise, because I feel like a follower will say, okay, well, I'm not allowed to do that. So I put out my point of view and
well, so
more senior
can I tell you my visceral reaction hearing it? I'm like, can we stop with just the debate?
Okay.
No,
Yeah.
like debating. I'm like, you know what happens to someone who drafts what they want to do?
Yeah.
You can't stop
You
them.
can't stop them. Right.
You might feel like, you know what? I don't agree. Instead of like, well, you don't agree, fine, we're not doing it. No, it's like, I there's a reason I'm interested in this.
Yeah.
And so you're digging deeper, right? And it doesn't mean it's about being obtuse.
Yeah.
It's that you want to know, like, you know, the whole mission first. I'm genuinely interested in winning, success on the mission.
Yeah.
Not has to be my idea.
Right.
Has to be my first thought.
Right.
Has to be what I drew out first. No, I want to win.
That's a good point. You won't stop the BD. You're dying to share it and iterate on it, and you're testing shit. You're just moving. You would not be debating.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
So your thing about TP. When I think about TP, like a great TP is like a great training partner at a gym, right? The best litmus test for a great training partner in the gym, the day when you're exhausted and you feel like I cannot, right? If you find yourself simply by interacting and going to work out with them, you work out even harder, right? Now, what does that mean? It could be a gazillion things. Maybe they work so hard it inspires you to, or maybe they're good at like bantering and making fun of you, right? Like maybe like, you know, your twin sister, Erin, would not complain like this. And then boom, comes out. Or like, you know, it's like you're a girl, so being weaker is okay. You know, don't worry about it. No, or we do Pilates and be like, I had a 6-month head start. Like, this is why I do this better, right? 100, I can go 200. 6-month head start compounded. Next thing you know, no complaint, just right. And I'm like, so we both get a better workout. Like, and there's an element of like competition with your own teammate. Once again, the tone and the energy tells you, right? There's when it's vicious, which happens by accident, right? And then there's like, you know what, like elevation of performance for both. You train harder, you perform better. Like, but to do that, you need someone who can hold their own. And so like a TP who is nothing but support sucks. Just sucks. Because, I have bad days too. I have days when I need some motivation. I have days when my idea isn't right. I need a challenge and I want to win. So I want to know how to make it better.
Do you have several team training partners?
Yeah, it's so funny you say
So-
that. Yeah, in our training modules, we would all of this during COVID. We had built a module where you're actually in a small group and you're practicing with different individuals. You're looking to figure out like who actually elevates you, who makes you better. So ultimately, you want to get to a place where you have one,
Right.
but you need a test. Yeah, I mean it's interesting for Greg.
Yeah, Florence went through the leadership again. We had you test.
Oh yeah,
And you probably partner with like 7 to 10 different people, and you can feel the stark difference of even your own energy, your ability to be more authentic, more, with different people. Some just suck the energy out of you,
Like really pushing.
and some you're like, whoa. And when you taste that different teaming, you're like, whoa. It's not that I want to team with them. It's like I have a sense of what good and bad is. When you know that good exists, you're like, I'm not settling for that anymore. Right? So
And sometimes it's like they're not actually similar to you, which is I feel like sometimes maybe that's the default people go to is like I want someone who thinks like me, and it's actually people who show you a completely different way that you missed.
yeah, so we actually
That's cool.
developed training on this.
yeah.
That module 4 is solo. How to navigate in uncertainty solo. Module 5 is all around actually teaming with different people and understanding how to be a great partner to anybody.
Okay.
Even a horrible person. Because of the fact that I came in, they do better. I'm being serious. That's a skill. People who are always single, they're like, I'm still looking for my perfect match.
Right.
Which the other people say, they're so fucking difficult. Right? like that's why they're single. Versus someone's like, no, I'm always in a relationship. I can actually make any of them work. That's a learned skill. It's a learned skill, like of knowing how to push, but knowing how to repair, that's a learned skill. So I can team with anybody before I get to the one. That's the elite decision making you want to get to. It's a process, but everyone wants to jump to 6, right? And they don't realize they suck and they're the weak point. And then it gets worse and worse and gets more and more awkward. And now it's like, if I don't meet with you, you're going to get offended. So now like at a performative meet with you, it's like just bad. Right. And you lose. And it's like 1 + 1 is like -5.
Sorry.
Right?
Oh, brilliant.
Yes. Happens all the time. Right. Which is why even when you came out of the academy, you're like, Suo, I was like, I don't know. Right. Like, just be careful. Like in the early part, it's like, the first time you ever go on a date, I'm like, fucking found my soulmate, getting married, already came up with the name of kids. We're going to buy the house. We're going to do career wise. Done. Right. I'm like, oh God. There begins the journey of, hero's journey of life when you realize everything sucks. But yes. But yeah, so it's like
Monica, the question. Sorry, Monica.
Sorry, Monica.
We'll take the question from Monica and then we'll drop for lunch.
Okay.
Thank you. And I appreciate that. Since you said that it's going to take you weeks, I'm like, I need to solve this in my head so that I can continue. And going back to the worksheet, which I think it's brilliant, at least for what we are building, and it's going to be very helpful. Where I got stuck was on the next slide you shared where it had all the handwriting, because in theory, the worksheet, it's easy in my mind, but when I go to in reality, in practice, which I think it's what you were sharing there, but as I was driving at that time, I couldn't get it. And that always starting with a mission, but then how you navigate from, I guess, bottom up, because you start in the easy, right? So
once you make your sheet, I know this a lot, Monica. The first thing I try to do almost always every day is go upper left. So project insane, if it exists. If not, project hard, because that's where the movement occurs. The problem with starting with people first is before you know it, get into micromanagement. I want them to do exactly what I want. And the more I draft exactly what I want them to do, the more like psycho micromanager you become. Meaning you have most control over your own self and the projects you're going to work on that matter. You even have control over how you sequence it, how you actually prioritize it, how you categorize it. But the people side does matter. And so there's all these litmus test nuances. And so we're going to build a whole course on how to train this in intense ways, consistent ways, but I'll give you some of the interesting nuances. If you find that you have even one or more insane projects, and then you have one or more insane people, you're in a bad place. Okay. Right? When you feel that, you should feel like it's like my body and mind, eyes, everything is shutting down. And so that means I need to work really hard to get at least one of the categories down to hard. And the act of exposure is what helps it. So just be mindful of that. The other part I was going to say is, I mean, for example, like, with children, as parents with children, I think we like to think, oh, they're easy, right? No. Like they're hard. And as they get older, they get harder. And in fact, it's insane. So we had this discussion with the CFO of FTD, right? He's trying to get his daughters to come the first Thursday. Now we invited her and stuff. He's like, it's kind of like, it's like a relationship with daughter is kind of like war or something, or it's like dating, right?
He said dating.
And I was like, no, it's not like dating. That's the one part you're underestimating. It's like going to Afghanistan war, right? Trying to get a teenage daughter to commit with a bunch of friends to come. And it's like, I was like, if you recognize, right? And they may come and insult and spill and drink alcohol. I mean, like, I was like, if you don't have understanding that a teenager is like trying to get people on insane, like it may look normal, but only because you only see what you see. Like it's that hard to control. And as a parent, it's even harder. As an outsider, you can see it easier. Like kids lie to their parents more than anything else, and they're masters of it. So they can look like everything's normal, right? And they might even throw a throwaway hard just so they can trick you. Fucking Afghanistan. I was like, there's snipers, there's minefields, and I was like, I don't even think we're on the same team, right? It's like, yes. So this notion,
if you have insane project with insane people, so picture a project you have that makes you not be able to think really straight.
Yes.
And then the person you're working on it with also drives you fucking crazy and you can't get through to them. You need to figure out how to ground the people side. The project is insane. Is that what you're saying?
Or at least one of the
or one of the two. Okay.
Right. So
that through exposure, you're talking.
So I'll give you a perfect example. Like when we had a few fights in the offsite. So then suddenly the relationships literally that were even easy just went insane. And one of the ways I can tell is it's almost difficult to speak truthfully.
Yeah.
See the ramp to authenticity. No longer can I just speak unfiltered. Now I have to think of my words carefully so we don't offend and make it worse. And so then everyone's like picking their words carefully, right? And so as that happens, you can feel the energy. It literally feels like we're in a minefield, right? It's just getting more and more dangerous. So like
I can share it at lunch, maybe not on video.
So then what happens is that how does that go back to actually attacking the mission in the regular way? We start to get to a place where it gets so minefieldy, and then somebody decides to say, you know what, fucking sucks, and just speaks authentically, right? Encouraging others to speak authentically, and did it, and then they're so they can't speak, and then we're like, what are you thinking? It's like, I don't know. They're like, well, you talk.
You can actually go mute from
no, and then people say you talk in the pool for like 2 hours. What'd you talk about? I know we talk, but I can't even think of one thing. Like literally the brain just shut down. And so it's like
catatonic practically.
But not until it dropped from insane could everything start functioning again fast. So you have to be mindful of that. Meaning even relationships that are easy
can go
suddenly for some external thing that happened or just an overnight sleep where they woke up having a nightmare that you were a fucking demon doing something. Boom. Right. It's like, wait,
I don't know.
What happened overnight? What happened overnight that like, I mean, this stuff happens all the time.
Yeah.
And this is the part, recognizing.
I'm like a devil.
That like, it's like recognizing like, no, that's life. That's why it's so hard.
It moves up and down.
Right.
That's why this thing moves up and down. So every day it's changing. It's not like a worksheet, and then you're just done. No, it's changing based on what.
It's not that you start here and then here and here. You go up and down, starting with the hard and then go.
Start with the hardest thing.
So we
taught this missions, right?
Was it?
You have several missions.
Oh yeah, you have several missions, but once again, you have to know The one that if you succeed in, the project that's hard is how you succeed, meaning you get more fuel. If you get more fuel, I can do more of other stuff. A lot of us people do that. Well, I'm going to run on empty, right? And I'm going to keep adding more hard projects just because I want to, right? Because it makes me look good, right? And then I'm just going to act like everything is easy for me and whatnot. It's like not true. You need more fuel. And there's a part where even in the academy, why we started everyone on hard. And then when it got so hard, we had them all oscillate to their easy projects. It was all self-picked projects. And everyone was like not only conversing well, right? Like it's, you think of the two levers, just drop the lever of the project to easy. And suddenly all the relationships, even the difficult ones, became easier. And everyone was buzzing, right? And then what I did was that we're trading was I made the easy thing harder. I tell them, you got like 30 minutes to brainstorm. I was like, you know what? I'm going to cut it off in 12. Everyone's like, I didn't even go. Like, and so everyone's talking faster. They're like, but they're all rising to the challenge, right? Like I even told them, I want you to partner with a person you like least in the room. People were like, that person. And I was like, go. Like, and so this is where like you can train this.
We actually did that.
We actually did that. And I was like, I think it's a good idea.
I was like, I think it's a bad idea. As he said it, people started pointing to each other and doing it. I was like, oh.
Yeah, they're like, you are the one I want to partner with. All right, go ahead, right?
I was like, I was wrong. I had a point of view for sure.
I think Greg picked Florence or something. No?
Oh, no. Greg wasn't with you, was he?
That was Greg.
Yeah, I have no idea why.
Like each other.
Oh, that's
very different.
Is that the truth?
Oh.
Your truth, his truth. But either way. But see what happens? And then people felt like, oh my God, I can do this. They found momentum. So then the next session, back to heart. Like feeding off the energy of I can do this, which is that thing where I put where, you know, first there's always managing the downside, which sometimes you have to lead it to a higher being.
Yeah.
But then there's a part of like, I can do this. That high agency muscle, I can do this. Sometimes it requires you to go to easy, kick some ass on this really easy thing, right? Then to come back and try the hard thing and you realize, okay, this is harder, but the same methodology I'm going to apply, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I love, and I know our team hates this, I love training our team, taking easy projects and just adding constraints, right? Just adding more and more and see what they do. And when they fall apart, I'm like, all right, well, clearly the hard work they cannot do, right? And so how do we train them more?
And even if it's not like a hard project or an easier normal project, I do think content, like different, because I was saying this over the weekend, the idea of content, like you actually need things to talk through. They're challenging, and it's practicing sharing your point of view on something that you're like, I don't know if I want to share that, but like it's like something that might be so stupid. Like it's not related to the mission, right? It's related to you, right? And something it's hard to talk about, but it actually is preparing you. It's giving you practice ground to talk about things that are hard, you know? Like that's what projects, people and projects is all.
It's content.
It's all the same thing,
content.
right? It's content.
The exact words Megan uses, we need more content. I need more difficult content so I can like put myself through it and see what happens.
Like when you have something really.
How do I think?
Yeah.
How do you think?
Like you're free.
How do we think as a group?
Yeah.
I need more content, right?
Yeah.
So it's like I'm only working on one project. Oh, yeah. I'll work on that one. Oh, yeah. I got different people, right?
Yeah.
Remember, it's like the Cornell wild people.
Oh, the organoids.
Organoids.
They call them organoids.
You are all our organoids, right?
It's clear.
We're trying to grow it, trying to kill it. We're trying to see what it does, right? It's like it's content, right?
Right.
It's exercise.
Yeah. All right.
Wow. 2.5 hours.
2.5 hours. All right, we're going to be gone.
That's valid. That's valid.
And we need to stay, you know, at our own level. So it's interesting.
So you will have
Right,
PK,
people.
and then we will see you in week 6, I think. 6 weeks from now, Thursday.
Interesting.
Unless something good happens, it might be sooner, which is all possible. Because in the range of possibilities, right?
Thank you for the hearts, Monica.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you.